December 19th, Portraits of the Mind. I'm going to do a reading today. I'm going to read some poetry because that's really the material. That's really the video literature for everybody. In your phone, your phone's about the size of a paperback book or a notebook, as it were. And so, just put it on while you're drifting off to sleep or whatever on the train, watching vlogs. December 19th, Portraits of the Mind. Washing his hands in the fountain drink. Babies don't last. A subject for the light. Cheating to the upper right. Europe is full of mime troops. I'm losing the war in my mouth against germs. Older than lonely Christopher. I'm a piece of shit drug addict. The rich and the homeless. She left without saying goodbye. December 25th, the town of life. Brother turns experientially 40 in 3 days. Can't believe I'm gonna miss it. I've been spending too much time away from home. He says with what he's been through, he feels 40, but not physically. Remax dealer bought 3 kids, one right off the floor of the showroom. My phone died and won't charge in the middle of our Christmas call. I wanted to go home for Christmas, but my tummy hurts, my toothaches. Moving at the speed of my hand. How low opportunities stay in the balcony of Popeyes. When I was your age, played bass on CD 101 Anna, Go With Him before any man drowned. All of lives kept all to himself. Conference call with family all day, cold in the streets, frosted flakes. Zabar's open 365 days a year. The war with nothing to show for it. I brought it on myself. Denied access, instant hit, 3-9. Trout ID, the merchant, Surrey, play Fred Smith bass. It's a swamp, but what if I called it Florida? Patrick's coming over. We're going to eat pizza and play WCW NWO Revenge. One biscuit, Sega CD, Frankfurter kitchen, phone the store on Christmas. How did you make it memorable? Schlepping on the train, the only place that's open. Holding the emergency exit so others can enter free of charge. Jack admonishes me. Did I call my mom yet? I don't care if we ever go back. Read her fortune in a cup of Turkish coffee. So that was Christmas for me. Christmas at Zabar's. I spent Christmas at Zabar's. It was wonderful. They're open 365 days a year. And the food is. I had a cherry blintz and some chicken marsala, and I bought Frosted Flakes. The weed that I brought is I bought. Hey, it's Bill Maher. It's Club Random. Okay, everything's legal on YouTube. YouTube has a very chill weed policy, unlike TikTok. TikTok is no smoking. YouTube is very chill about it. It's legal here, man. It's like a weed store basically on YouTube. But okay, so I went to Zabar's on Christmas. Chicken marsala. Yeah, they're open 3, but they don't have an indoor dining area. So I bought this weed that was called Frosted Flakes on Christmas. The weed store is open. It's open 24/7, including Christmas Day, for Christ's sake. So God bless the weed dealers, our true apothecaries, are the true healers, the true medics, and the true healers and chemists, the true doctors. They're doing the real healing. I don't know. Are we just running away from our problems? So I'm going to read some Christmas classics here. Just reading poetry for everybody on Christmas like I'm C. Clement Moore. Oh, God, I always make lame references. Okay, so this is December 11th. I could have enjoyed myself waiting for the cycle coming back around rather than working on what I had, surrendering to hearsay, but I hated where I lived and needed a place to stay. Sleeping, working once a week, slipping into Midtown comedy mics, the food in Midwood was trying to kill me. Ashley inherited a perfect apartment in a legendary part of town where we must write our story. I'd been to Brooklyn, I'd lived it. This was something different, large. The whole park was our surfboard, night swimming with Philip on the lowest outer rung of respectable poetry. The trains didn't really grow to Bushwick like I needed them to, and I was stuck uptown even as my teeth cracked and fell apart, pierced the nerve in my jaw. As animals where we go to eat, and I live like an animal, close to the biorhythms, superstitious of the high-speed technologies. Now we're watching all the movies I've ever meant to see. Finally, I can cross Casino off, although I realize now I've basically seen all of it on cable. The library is the third place. I thought that's what we were. Now everybody's got their own. Easy Paradise is community college, and eventually people graduate. They start their own shit. It's not like we invented it. Enthusiasm is contagious, but now what do I do? I don't mind doing a weekly show with less people. The intention was to try to make the audience huge, not necessarily the list of performers. Maybe we should have features, get people to take us seriously as poets again. First, the literary establishment left us because we had comedians. Then the comedians left because they didn't feel safe. So the male comedians are now what we have left, and how long will they stay? But our followers keep going up. So that's, yeah. I was experimenting with writing things that are more like regular diary entries. Because I heard somebody say, I forget what it was, but somebody gave the advice of like, in order to write a poem, take some prose thing that you've written and break it into lines. And to be honest, I just don't write in I think it's a mode, right? When I'm writing like poetry, it's almost like a certain mode of creation where you're allowing yourself, it's a different place that you're speaking from. Whereas when you're writing prose, at least for me, and maybe this is why, I was interested in this advice, prose you kind of lay out declarative meaning, you're trying to get a point across, complete sentences, punctuation, all this. Prose, there's a legibility, there's a coherence that's the point of it, I guess. You can't really have prose without that. Maybe, I don't know. Is Gertrude Stein prose without legibility? I don't know. I guess you can have sentences, but in any case, I thought, well, why don't I just, I don't write a diary because I do this. I do my diary in public. And I consider this like journaling in a way. It's just sort of a way of getting the ideas down and out real fast. And it's prose, right? Because I'm trying to make a point, even though it sort of has all these tangents and I stop in the middle of a sentence and there's interruptions or this or that. It's still sort of more like an essay or something. I'm saying the information. And so I thought, well, okay, the one poem that I really wrote that was like, it killed when I read it, was this poem, The Pickup Artist, or Narcissistic Kunstlerroman, which I wrote in like 2012. I went to the Met with my buddy, Luke. Shout out to Luke, who was a very good writer. He was an excellent, excellent writer. You move to New York and you realize there's just people that really have a lot of technique. And so for me, it's like, I don't know. I don't want to emphasize that part, I guess. Or I don't, so anyway, I had written this diary entry about when we went to the Met one day. And I wrote about it in my moleskin, because I used to do that. I would sit in a cafe or whatever. I wrote a certain number of hours a day. I had a desk or something in my room, or I'd go out in the city somewhere and pay to sit in a cafe with coffee, even though I couldn't really drink it. And I would just write anything. It was just about being productive, right? And doing 10,000 hours. And you're supposed to write, 8 pages a day or whatever it is, 4 pages, whatever the goal you set for yourself as sort of a long distance writer and a serious kind of career writer. I don't know. This was the advice I took in my 20s about method and things. And it's you kind of have to organize your life into these blocks of time in our society, because it's like, as a writer, the question is always, what's the ritual? How do you write? Where do you have time to write? Where do you have space to write? And it's always like, well, I have this chunk of time in the morning before my kids get up, or I write after work or whatever it is. I have 4 hours, Writers are obsessed with that, and every writer has to kind of figure out their own rhythm that works. But at the time, in 2012, I was still writing a lot of diary entries to just sort of, that was a little bit before digital media took over kind of all of that. It was still, not that people don't keep diaries anymore, but like, we live our life more online now. There's Substack, or I don't know. There's vlogs. There's live, there's a lot of outlets now that are, you're trying to get into these spaces or something. There's less disconnect. This was a little bit before Facebook had become, and things became apps on your phone that just like took over your life. It was a little before Instagram, maybe. I think I got on Instagram summer of 2012. I'm pretty sure I got on it like literally like the week before my brother got married or something. Because my first pictures on Instagram are all like, around that time, his wedding and stuff. And so this was a little before that. Not that that makes a huge difference, but recording things, if it had happened a few years later, I probably would have just filmed it or something, or made some kind of video about it or whatever. Recorded a photo booth, stream of consciousness monologue about it that no one would ever see. But at the time, and maybe this was better, I wrote, a prose diary entry about it. And I think one of the pleasures of writing is like surprising yourself. That's what's scary about it, is you don't know what you're going to say. You don't know what you're going to write about. And you don't know if you're going to come up with anything good. And then as you're writing, you sort of find out what you really think. And you can come up with some pretty interesting stuff if you really focus and have a, the pen, the page, all of that stuff is a part of that. Live streaming, the pressure of doing this, having an audience, sort of, it's too fast. You slide through it, and it's not quite, you don't go quite to those depths. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to do it live, right? The dream at the time was how do I be a writer in front of an audience, I guess. Being somebody that needed to be in front of an audience, I felt weird to spend that much time alone writing, right? And so I took this diary entry, basically, and I broke it into lines. I think I'm pretty sure that's how it went down. I added some stuff, I wrote some new stuff, but there were definitely parts of it that were like a prose thing that I had broken into lines, And, I think especially when you're reading something live, if you have coherence, that the audience, honestly, a lot of times the audience will go for stuff live that's kind of, like they'll go for rhyme, they'll go for, not that stuff is like, but, a lot of times something that plays well live might not be the most sophisticated thing on the page, or, just because something hits immediately is immediately gratifying. This is not necessarily the indication that it's an advanced piece of writing per se. I don't know. In our culture, that's a standard. It's like you have to people have to immediately love what you're doing. and think it's like, and be in awe of it or something. To be major, right? Or to I don't know. And so I don't know. I see a lot of people that like stick to the coherence and stick to kind of like uninteresting. They cleave to uninteresting stuff as far as I'm concerned. Um, everybody, the lowest common denominator, I think, is how you communicate to the most people. And a lot of times it is like the most childish thing that's going to communicate. Like, think of something like even like the Beatles, right? The Beatles are sort of like the last thing that everybody's like, wow, this is what. It's kind of like kids' music. And a lot of their music is like, Yellow Submarine or whatever. Fucking, it is, it literally even their music that's like advanced adult music is sort of it has things that tap into like the most kind of like basic elementary kind of like parts of us and those kind of like simple parts of us in a certain way. I don't know. They're pop, right? We live in a pop culture and it gets so much fucking attention that it's like the only thing that exists. And so I don't know. With this piece, I was trying to experiment a little bit more with something that was like I'm trying to return to writing stuff that's like for me with poetry, a lot of it is I'm kind of misguided because a lot of it is just about economizing the language as much as possible. I'm trying to get as much out of every single syllable as I possibly can. And so a lot of times you're shortcutting on meanings or you're cutting things out that maybe you need. I don't know. Like I said, particularly when you're reading stuff live, I don't know. It's like if you have, if you're David Sedaris or something, people are gonna fucking love it. It's like, oh, this was this pseudo literary thing that was like a prose essay about how the guy's family are hillbillies or whatever. It's like that's the best thing you could hope for. It's like some kind of moth story slam piece of shit that would be on This American Life or something. And it's like, as we as New Yorkers, or whatever, as I don't know, it's just like I want to play at the top of an intelligence. I want to play. That's my idea of sophistication, or it's about being hip. God damn it, I don't know, or like being fast. Like I said, I'm trying to weave all these fucking things together. And so with this, with prose, you don't think about every you're not it's not like every syllable is a slot in the same way. With poetry, it's like literally things are meted out, 10 syllables a line, 4 syllables a line, whatever it is, certain number of feet. With prose, it's like your sense of line is completely different. And so I like the idea of the prose poem, even though I think lineation is my preference. It's surprising how much mental bandwidth lineation can take up and how much writing a prose poem can unlock. I think a lot of people, certain people's best writing is like their prose poetry in some weird way. Not like John Godfrey as an example. Not that John Godfrey isn't always great, but if you read his book Midnight in Your Left, it's all these prose poems where like his earlier stuff was very like kind of sonnet forms, or you could tell he was maybe it was metered in a way and kind of 10, 14 lines or something. Whereas like these prose poems, it's just like totally it's I don't know. It's just like poetry is almost like a corset or something, and a prose poem just kind of allows you to flow maybe, and so it can unlock other things. And but I don't know. I'm trying to be as I get older and my what am I going to do? What am I going to do for a job? What do I like to do? I don't know. It's like part of me is just like I don't know if I really have like the fucking like quickness and like you really have to be like real you have to really like go for it and really push yourself in front of people to make it like on stage. And just like, I don't know, it just feels like there's not enough opportunities to develop. I'm too old, you know, so I'm not as cute as I once was. I'm not as marketable in our youth obsessed economy. And it's like, I live in poetry world, you know, I like sort of the altitude in a certain way, and poetry is really the thing that like my mind can use as a chew toy. You know, like the other shit is just not as good of a chew toy. Poetry is the best mental chew toy, and like I need a mental chew toy, and it's how you know, like it just keeps you sharp. I think, you know, creatively, linguistically, verbally, whatever. Poetry, living in poetry, reading poetry, being around poets is the most nurturing kind of biosphere just for as a human being. You know, but a lot of the human spectrum, I mean, all of the human spectrum is poetry if you really are in tune. But, you know, other media, I would say, are not as good of a chew toy. They're more like they fulfill too much music or not that you know I think it's all important practice, but like stand up comedy, for instance, it's just I don't know if you it's a toxic what they're feeding people. I do think it's like a psyop. I think they're feeding people really toxic opinions through stand up comedy by like fucking financing Two Bears in the Woods or whatever the fuck it is, Bert Kreischer, all of the comedy brats. That's all a psyop. That's all somebody like putting a bunch of money into getting them views or something. And meanwhile, I'm buried because my message is too fucking, I don't know, muddy or something, too unclear. I'm all over the fucking place. I'm too much of a hippie. I don't know. They, you know, look what they did to Bob Marley, okay, and all John Lennon and all of the people who tried to speak truth to fucking. So, I don't know. This has things that are more kind of like, you know, a lot of my poetry, I'm trying to avoid a sense of saying, you know, it's almost like slapstick in language. I feel like I'm making like slapstick comedy and have that sense of beauty and the poetry that those movies had, and yet do it through kind of these mishaps of language slippage or using the cartoon of real life as and making it beautiful like a cartoon is, and the way a cartoon is kind of primary colors and you know, a lot of the fucking New York school is cartoonish. A lot of those painters are sort of realists, Fairfield Porter or Joan Mitchell or fucking you know, a lot of if you look at the book covers, right, of Ashbery and Schuyler and all these people, it's like paintings of them by Fairfield Porter and shit. Who's the guy? Not Rudy Burkhardt. Uh, Rudy Burkhardt is an excellent painter as well. Vincent Katz, right? His stuff is almost like cartoons or something, but in a beautiful way. Um, you know, these are the things I'm trying to tap in with my aesthetic, but you have to be new. You have to be extremely new all the fucking time. And so how do you make that stuff new? And I have like sort of a garbage. I'm like Oscar the Grouch. My aesthetic is basically like Oscar the Grouch. It's like you know, I don't know if you know, our culture is like very clean and, all right, anyway. 1223, screen fasting. Poetry, everybody. Let me skip, what is this? Great Sands, okay. This is Columbus right here, my hometown. Or no, that's Indiana. Hold on. This is our trip to Colorado. The video of my trip to Colorado in 2000. I mean, it was almost a decade ago. Crazy, right? Insane. 10 years. I encourage people to watch the vlog. 10 years. This is almost 10 years. Screen fasting. We're screen fasting, okay? Social media is toxic. The phone is toxic. We need to get back to IRL, and we're screen fasting. We're living in poetry. We're reading again. I don't know. I think reading has changed permanently. But I would like to read Vanity Fair by William Thackeray. By William Makepeace Thackeray. There's nothing I'd like more than to just burrow into some huge 18th century novel or 19th century, whatever the, you know. Screen fasting. We're screen fasting, everybody. Easy does it. I wasn't saying the name, then they did. Now it's become kind of annoying. This week, nothing to do in She Wrote Flowers down in Mexico, Cabo Wabo. Visual and audio, print is dead, niche like vinyl. New York City doesn't stop on Christmas. It's like it doesn't even happen. All the Gentiles gone. Only one of many religious holidays, at least a few other sects equally present. It's called Everyday Grocery because it's open every day. This guy needs the piss taken out of him. He needs taken down a couple of notches. I'm worried about writing too much in my new notebook, so I don't write anything. Grandpa got home from the Korean War. Other grandpa tried to join Navy World War II at age 15. My work is at core not really about anything. It's competitive in this market. Need to develop monopoly or be eaten alive. It's monopoly or bust. All is quiet on New Year's Day. Ready for a break. I get more of the same. Experience Christmas where there is no Christmas. Torching my brand. We celebrated these children in the library. Doing good deed for season. If you're bad to people, they're bad to you. Nothing seems to be working. I got $3,000 in a check from United Healthcare to fix myself. So I guess I should start. Should have not let it get this far. If you're thinking about someone, they're thinking about you. That's what I learned today. Need to last another week watching directors' roundtables. This is me if you care. Fawn pick. I'm scared of my family. I wish I could be there. Bread, pork loin, chicken wrapped in bacon. Now I know what he meant by that's not food. Olivia's son is 6 feet tall. What am I going to say to everybody, having directed over 2,000 TV commercials? Sort of a DSLR Michael Bay. Listening to Quentin Tarantino on Bret Easton Ellis's podcast, watching Mark Maron on TikTok, editing my live streams for Reels, uploading the SD card for my post. He's voice to texting fembots at 3 a.m. on the other side of the wall, half Jewish, half Muslim, doesn't really celebrate Christmas, which is kind of a relief. I remember when my friend Amin came to Columbus for one day on Christmas in 2012, his disgust with our family's consumerism and television addiction, the disregard with which suburban Americans live. New York City's temperate, subtropical climate. These kids today never knew snow. Ashley's getting free room service at her hotel in Cabo Wabo. With the great intake our culture throws itself out every 20 years. For a global audience, the money is more but worthless. I remember watching The Sopranos when it was on the air. How they get you to sympathize with bad people by exhibiting their charisma and flattering them with cinematic portrayals. Nobody got killed that wasn't supposed to get killed. Down under the aqueduct on Smith Street, he gives you the impression he's never working, even though, of course, he always is. A big, lazy sprawl of embarrassment. Their health care was leeches and bleeding. George Washington died of pneumonia after riding his horses in the snow. Global warming was faintly a dream at the time. My little brother's friend Zach had Timothy Chalamet energy before Timothy Chalamet was a thing. The worst thing LA did to the film industry is no tax rebate. That's why Atlanta is Hollywood. Ranting for clips which I'll never edit. Nervous at the steps coming back and forth across the apartment outside my closed door, just like when I was a teenager with my stepdad. The world green and overgrown with tall algae trees out my bedroom window. Hiding in my room, crying in the shower. No one allowed it to be that way, so I wrote the story. Must be told, never had a regularly scheduled paycheck or any job security whatsoever. Forget healthcare or dental. You have to have a job for that. As things get more privatized and financial, cashless transactions mark your geolocation. 38 and still holding on. A show business cockroach surviving the nuclear holocaust of no grandchildren. It's Halloween on Christmas Eve. I'm doing what always made me happy. I'd like to see my family and get out of the city, but Christmas is such a scam. Worst time of the year to travel. I like big notebooks and having a lot of things open at once. I'm teaching a class January 18th in diary poetics. How taking things one step at a time can lead to massive success as an artist. 38 years old is the prime of life, but I'm about to turn 39. We're all leaves on a tree. It's beautiful what we make when we fall. Oh, this thing about yeah, I mean, I see a lot of these mafia videos. I'm kind of obsessed with the mafia in a way. And I do think that the films glamorize who these people were. Who, and I'm sure if you saw them in real life, they would not be glamorous people. And you know what they did was not admirable. You know, they killed people, this or that. But I think that our media, for the past however many decades, does have a glam. It's like a need. Every movie has to like glamorize some kind of sociopath, right? The last 30, it's all about anti-heroes, or you know, a lot of the fucking HBO shows, Game of Thrones or whatever. It's all just like the most horrible human behavior. But it kind of, you know, like Tony Soprano, right, is sort of the ultimate example of like, you know, these are not good people. They're scumbags. They're all scumbags, to be honest. They're fucking Italian scumbags. Not that it matters that they're Italian, that doesn't matter, but like, it's just like they're not, but it's like, it's James Gandolfini. He's an amazing actor. He's a fucking sexy guy. But it's like, this guy is not, he's not like peak performance or whatever. He's not alpha. He's not, but he, you know, that portrayal was so amazing. This character does kind of loom over our culture in a way. And don't get me wrong, like, it's an amazing show. But it's like, I think people look, and, you know, or, you know, Goodfellas, same fucking thing. It's like, people look at these characters like they're, or I mentioned Casino in this, you know. I had never seen Casino before. You know, Scorsese, a lot of his films, he's taking people that are like kind of fucking scumbags. I don't know. You know, I don't know. I never met any personally. You know, I probably should just keep my mouth shut. But it's not just the mafia. It's you know, it's any kind of fucking anti-hero kind of behavior. Now it's like they get, you know, when they portray things, it's like the Pauline Kael thing, you know? It's like when they portray things in the movies, it just becomes fucking sexy because it's a fucking movie. You know, it's like it's just the cinematic art kind of inherently fetishizes things or makes things kind of have a star power. Seeing that kind of like moving duplicate on a huge screen, this can have a lot of persuasion, and they, you know, they get the fucking, you know, how many people have made careers out of playing these characters, you know, the fucking Godfather, from the Godfather on, you know, the mafia, I don't think really had that reputation until the movies came out and made it look like, oh fuck, these guys are cool. It's fucking Marlon Brando and fucking all these cool guys. They talk cool, they dress cool, these are cool guys, you know. It's like, I don't know. It's kind of like, you know, it's like the ultimate capitalism. You know, they just kill people. They just have people fucking whacked and whatever. And it's not, like I said, it's not just that. You know, the on the flip side, how many fucking shows are cop shows? You know, half the fucking shows on TV are like fucking cop shows. SVU, Law and Order, fucking NYPD Blue. I don't even know what's on anymore, but it's like, there's a lot of fucking glamorizing of the fucking police and shit. And it's propaganda. It's copaganda, right? And so, you know, that's in there. I was complaining about that. The global audience, right? Okay, anyway, we'll go on. I'm, you know, I think, you know, I'm kind of known, and part of my technique is when I read is to like have these emotional kind of outbursts that kind of make it exciting or unpredictable or something, but like I feel like if I read it with kind of a level voice, it makes it a little more listenable and a little more legible. And so when I go back and listen to it later, it's like I want to hear something even and kind of has a tempo that kind of continues the whole time. So when I read now or when I'm doing this, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to go ballistic and be a nutcase like I do on stage. In my middle aged, I'm getting more. I'm settling into my, I don't have, a lot of that comes from nervousness and anxiousness, right? Motorcycle windshields, right? Motorcycle windshields. My lips are chapped. I'm running out of weed. I'm buying weed on Christmas. I'm screen fasting, disavowing museums. My books are like glass relics, precious objects. Brooklyn baby getting high on beat poetry. Reading my contemporaries, placeholder until something can be found later. Returning to the neighborhood where I wrote shower. She's quoting McLuhan and Deleuze in the informal university. Is there anybody with the specific references I like, complaining about society's manipulated design in all the same ways I do? Talking for 2 hours unfiltered, embarrassing myself and pulling other people into it? Getting my MFA from LIU would have been worth it, becoming a debt slave for poetry. I'd rather have a Toyota Camry and tour the country making poetry, covering expenses with dime bag pamphlets, playing golf in the 17th century. Tax write-offs. I want to talk about tax write-offs. Remind me, we're going to go into tax write-offs. I'd rather have a Toyota Camry and tour the country making poetry, covering expenses with dime bag pamphlets. These are dime bag pamphlets, by the way. Playing golf in the 17th century, the greatest ad for Nike never paid for. Our equipment storage in the dressing room at Victoria's Secret flagship store, 666 Fifth Avenue, New York City. My life has always been about sex, passion incarnate, the physicalization of love. Wanting communion and consummation with form. Wish I could get some completion tonight. I'm staying in. It's been almost a year since my 2 3/4 some. Befriending poets, getting to know poets, spending time with poets. My only national prominence was a handful of people who followed me on Twitter. But then Alan Mask bought it. Alien Mask. So most of the national literary world has missed out on my goings-on at events over the last 6 months. There were always these children at Christmas. Bodhisattvas, we three kings took care of them. In the baby shit green Grace Kelly cascade of the Noel curtain over our Radio City Xmas miracle. They had lived in an apartment 3 years before realizing it had been the home of Wallace Stevens. I lived down the street, but he didn't care because I said it with no conviction. Don't fake something that you think people want you to do. I watch TikTok like I'm on TV. It liquidates my time like I'm American. This blue book, what is it? I fill it. Build more light rail. People I hate how the monorail of the Simpsons episode has made people skeptical of light rail. People trust because you're good looking. You know how to do things. Just keep your mouth shut. Remain mysterious, but see everything. Know everything. Taste like Ohio pork chop, which I never had outside my family. Another sent me Facebook message I can't look at. So did Don Yorty. Midwinter Day was yesterday. You had all day to come up with the line, and that was the best you could do. It wasn't really about the best. It admittedly doesn't really lock in till January or February. Should do a sequel book another year. So this was about, I read my 1 year, but I have my book 1 year, which has one line every day I read. So admittedly, the first few months of it are not great. It doesn't really kick in till about January or February. That's what that line is about. Because I was just figuring it out, like that was the point of doing it. By writing one line a day, you gradually focus in on that space and start to think about what it means and how you can get the most out of it. So the first few months, the lines are kind of like, I'm just figuring it out. What I should have done is written another quarter of a year and just like started it cut out that first 3 months or whatever and started it 3 months later. But I didn't. I just kept what I had. And so, it's like I said, it's not meant to be like some knockout fucking line. That's not the point. The point of doing it is not to have every line be like, wow, this is a complete kind of like mind blowing thing in and of itself. I don't know what the point of it is. But it wasn't that. My point is never to like impress people because I can't. So that's Columbus. That's Columbus right there. So Sir Yadir, shout out to Sir Yadir, says he went up and he talked shit about it. He said you had an entire day to come up with a line, and that was the best you could do. That line was terrible. And like I said, admittedly, it wasn't one of my best lines. It was kind of a bad line. I think it was something about dead or something. I can't remember. But yeah, it wasn't about that. It wasn't about showing off. Anyway, return to group singing. We are poets in congregation. That's different than where we come from, or transposed to current circumstance. It's church, sitting liturgical with gospel music, sermon, and verse. Thanks for the invite. You kidnapped my monopoly. Competition is fierce on the other side of the river. A wall of water, a gash clotted with a flow of hydration. I'm a total disaster as performer, an over-disclosurizing orator-writer. It's what makes me an artist. Commitment and sloppiness. Doing it one single way, that which you believe, with materials at hand. Outliving your kids. Disintegrating in the fat of United States acid, charging us to breathe. Animals must find shelter in their next meal. That's really all we are. We have devised systems as a people which could easily disseminate necessities and essentials, even sustaining comforts for all. Why not start there? As they slaughter a lamb on the billionaire super yacht, dumping gasoline between 100-person orgies. Wax in my ear has been there all year. It's charming because it's unique in the degree factory party districts where business grads hose down society. Success in the long term means treating people right. Rows of desks, graph paper office towers, wearing perfume, skirt, and shears. Time off was bad for me. What is the name of your primary care provider? Finish while you're hot. I don't believe that. You can draw it out. In the monastery with a manuscript, the night goes with you everywhere. When I think of illness, I think of Rilke, suffering. A poet isn't a movie star. It was cold all day, now the radiator turns on. It's gonna get hot just in time for bed. Pisses me off. Super doesn't understand how to properly operate the boiler. Warm us during the day when we're awake and working. The body sleeps deeper in the cool at night. Heat doesn't let us rest. $1 billion ain't what it used to be. Second screen content suddenly in the same time zone again. I just want to see my family. In 2005, Jean-Luc Godard declared cinema is over. People are watching fewer movies than at any point in the medium's history. A rabble of eyeballs seizes the art house. Drexel Grandview, Memento played 6 months senior year of high school. Moving back in with your parents, living all together in the suburbs because it's cheaper. Ashley scares people away. If San Francisco collapses, I'll move there. If San Francisco became the next Detroit, that would be the best thing to happen in a generation. Rich tech assholes should have less. Ted Sarandos closed early on Christmas Eve, targeting massive audiences, blockbuster box office. We got pre-awareness before we got GTA 6. What's the difference? Living on the first floor, there's no view. We had a collection of franchises that collected into one mega franchise. Disney and Up in the Club, Halloween on Christmas Eve, the city doesn't stop. Precious few as we went by. Public embarrassment bar band, A5 dark gray thread binding. Rustic Italian vegetable stuffed with mushrooms wrapped in bacon. A sequel to the Jumanji reboot. The video game of walking plays in the background of my talking. Going outside was a waste of time. Living in my cubicle, hibernating on the lot, soundstage basement, Glaciers of his diapers, subtracheal blow. 15 years on the peninsula of Florida. Africa is the most resource-rich continent. Supposed third world countries are exploited by the West for how much wealth they hold. Arrested for cocaine trafficking, American brands make bank for their shareholders. Using two screens at once, listening to edutainment vodcasts, 40 plus tabs open and alive, protected from sleet and rain by plastic sheeting. Spaffed all levels of posh. She pays for our dinner, comes back on Saturday, too nasal for fame. Believe, 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 believe. It's taken this long. Why? Dark Armada in the glass pocket opens a can left behind by the Times. Opens a can of whoop-ass left behind by the Times. Having money is a choice. Having no money is a choice. Bankable skills I have and a phone call with my family, Susan opines. Dad's jaw swelled, then they put him under. He doesn't like travel, it's work. I do something every other night of the year. Think I'll just stay in for Christmas. The tranquilized spotlight at the Follies, gymnastic pantomime, climbing out somebody's roof. Fellini is even better dubbed. Live-action cartoon grotesquing court and royals, Casanova at Paris, Christmas night. The child was conceived through Mary's ears. I don't mind not doing anything, not watching Die Hard in Nakatomi Towers Plaza. Films tinged with Christmas, but not Christmas movies. 3 New York City Christmases in a row, live from the world last Christmas. Que sera, sera. The screenplays were always poetry. It's not like I became someone else on a garbage bag sea, escaped from jail, masturbating in a carriage, terrorist weather bursting in like food with special effects. The sex scenes are like basketball, horseplay, just horsing around. Perfume of Venus gives birth to God. I could have watched this with Olivia. She thought I was lowbrow. Let the great work be accomplished. It dodged the questions. I guess it wanted to be a movie, like Robert Evans is a movie. Don't steal this from me, but she did anyway. Had the wisdom to keep them, going to need them when others fall out. Latka's applesauce, sauerkraut. Diana, goddess of the moon, taking a bath in a wooden barrel. Systems of measurement were not standardized. Heirloom tomatoes with Frankenstein barbers. A contest between poetry and brawn. The 1970s envisioning 17th century Europe. Not getting enough. Pheromones in the Vitales. A good biopic from diaries. Hat technology devolves. Intricate motherboards replace the doily factory. An excellent treatise on love till 4 in the morning. Christmas came in floods of September. I ordered myself some presents from Santa Amazon, falling into the like trap, miss left, miss right, miss short, miss long. Count how many spins the ball makes in the air. A library for the constable. December 25th, performative disregard, Gentile Messiah birthday, consumerist love exchange. A film about a writer, a person of letters, an online philosopher. These insults disturb my work as a poet. I haven't had my macaroni in a week. There is a crane on the woodshed. The greatest Christmas gift would be discovering this movie, Fellini's Casanova. Resplendent piranha voice, Tylenol or Advil, acetaminophen, ibuprofen. Lex Luger, a major insult, fornicating considerably while illustrating Boccaccio's Decameron. A pretext to import levitating bibliotecas. Voltage bridge in Bohemia's snow turned tropical storm in the globalist jet stream. A golden carriage arrives to take you off, escorted by your favorite chess computer. 3 days in bed and I didn't even get into the blue book. Raised Catholic, born as the King of Israel. So that was Christmas 2023, everybody. Oh my God, is that all the poetry I have? Okay, so maybe I'll read some Christmas from last year. Last Christmas, okay? This will be my George Michael Last Christmas. Is there anything I need to explain here? I think you all understood all of that, I'm sure. I don't know. Need more drugs. Okay, so Last Christmas. We'll read Last Christmas. I thought I had a nice sequence Last Christmas. And so that's, this book, I didn't publish that many copies. I need to publish more copies of this book because it was, I thought, a pretty good book. I put this together right before I moved out of my apartment. R.I.P. that phenomenal apartment. All right, let's adjourn to the window momentarily, shall we? We'll take a short break and we'll just allow. I heard this thing today. I watched a TikTok video. Who are we kidding? It was talking about the 7-second rule, and I thought this was kind of an important thing to know about crowd dynamics. This guy was talking about if you're a teacher or do public speaking or any kind of like group activity, you should know about the 7-second rule, which is that when you ask a question or when you're asking for like group involvement, you should wait 7 seconds because it takes the audience that long to sort of absorb what you're saying and sort of come around and so I just thought, as communicators on stage, comedians, poets, whatever, public speakers, I think this is a valuable piece of information because a lot of times, I know especially when you're doing comedy, a lot of times it feels like the audience is judging every fucking word you say, and it just feels like a belt is like tightening around you. The less laughter there is, it just feels like there's like a noose tightening around your neck the more you go on. Like this, for instance. And the fact of the matter is, like, it takes a second. And a lot of in-person communication, verbal communication, particularly in that environment, a live performance, the audience is nervous, you're nervous. A lot of people are just blacking out because they're scared. They're not necessarily paying attention as well as they could. That's why, I don't know, the more that I sort of am around stand-up comedy, I feel like that job is not necessarily about being funny. It's more about, it's almost like you're some kind of seminar kind of like coach or something. And it's more about like you're getting everybody into the boat with you, and you're getting them on board your rhythm and your pacing, and you're sort of hitting them with these kind of pattern breaking surprises that cause groupthink laughter. You're just training them. You're training their response. It's not necessarily at least that's how it feels with a lot of modern comedians. Just like how modern music sucks. And it's not actually music. Modern comedy is not actually funny. But it's like, it sounds like it's supposed to be funny. So the audience like kind of recognizes like, oh, okay. I laugh here. Ha ha ha. This guy's a good comedian. He's comfortable with himself. I don't know. So much of how people react to shit is like the emotion underneath something. And the confidence you put into it. You can have good material, but if you're not selling it, I also want to talk about the narcissism epidemic. We're in our smoke break. We're about halfway done here. This is my yearly, usually last year I did a really good poetry reading around this time. The end of last year I read from my notebooks and shit. And I encourage people to find those readings on YouTube because I remember them being really good. I haven't watched them, of course, but my reading. So I'm, this is an annual tradition, end of the year, reading from the notebooks, reading diaries, clearing out the books, the finance. Oh yeah, I was going to talk about tax loopholes. Well, we were talking about this guy Kuzu Daddy knows dumped all this money into some kind of esplanade or some kind of develop. He owns all these malls and shit. So he dumped all this money into some kind of development. He lost like they couldn't get the permits for it or something, and so he lost like $80 million or some ridiculous amount of money. He put into this on this project that just like went nowhere. And it's like what he's saying is, rich people, they have to lose a certain amount of money a year so they can write it off on their taxes. That guy lost that amount of money, but he could write the entire amount off on his taxes. So in his eyes, he kind of looked at it as a positive thing almost. Because it's like, okay, well, that loss, it's like, boom, that's tax money he doesn't have to pay on or something. A lot of the ways that these industries make money, or New York in particular, I feel like the whole shape of the city has been malformed by these tax rebates and shit. That's why they build certain things. That's why they build these towers that are for super rich people. That's why, because there's no vacancy tax. They're allowed to just keep these apartments empty. That's why all the fucking storefronts are empty, because they get a tax break. They make more money keeping it empty than if they rented it out for like $5,000 a month or whatever. To me, this makes no fucking sense. Maybe this made sense in the fucking 70s or whatever, when the city was like needed to raise rent or something, but or like encourage help the landlords or something. But it's like now it's upside down. Now there's just no, it's choked all the life out of the city. There's no small business. There's no local flavor to the city, which, I mean, if you want to talk about immigrants, that's one of the fucking ladders they can get on. That's one of the best ladders you can get on as an immigrant. You can start a small business, whatever that may be, and all of that is just choked out by these ridiculous fucking tax laws and shit. I had that line about the worst thing LA does for the film industry is no tax rebate. I heard somebody say that. I can't remember, some filmmaker. Because I've been watching, I've been watching all these directors' roundtables and shit. I think it was Ridley Scott. It was, these roundtables are amazing. If you're a film fan, not that necessarily the films in the theaters, but just like the accessibility of film and wanting to be a filmmaker, I think it's a very exciting time for that stuff. And these filmmakers roundtables and shit that they do on YouTube are actually pretty where it's, they got Ridley Scott and fucking Spike Lee and Tarantino and David Fincher, whoever, Todd, who's the guy, Welcome to the Dollhouse, Todd Solondz, or I don't know. Who's the guy that did the movie with Marion Moore and Natalie Portman? That guy. That movie's supposed to be pretty good. And so Ridley Scott was like, the worst thing LA does to the movies is no tax rebate. And like, yeah, like, you see entire, they go to Vancouver, Canada. They go to fucking, like, I had that line, Atlanta's the new Hollywood. Because it's like, they built all these fucking sound stages and shit there. Or New Mexico, New Orleans had all these tax rebates for Hollywood. And New York, that was one reason why a lot of these, in wave with kind of the gentrification cycle that sort of upcycled New York City, it just coincided with these tax rebates and sort of glamorizing New York in the media. Let's move the Tonight Show back to New York. We're going to rehab. We're going to give tax incentives to Hollywood productions coming here. Girls, whatever, Sex in the City. We're going to give them a tax incentive to shoot here. That really, for some reason, that shit really matters. And like that kind of dictates where the productions go. And so it kind of is insane that like L.A. of all, they don't shoot in L.A. Like, I think I heard Favreau say something like his greatest luxury when he became like a success, when he had enough hits that he could do what he wanted. He said his greatest luxury was that he could shoot in L.A. How fucking crazy is that? You know, because every movie they go to Vancouver or something because it's cheaper. It's like you'd think that they would want that business in this country. They're going to go to a different fucking country to shoot the X-Files or whatever. Like, it's crazy. And so, yeah, I don't know. I thought that was a fair point. You know, I don't... yeah, incentive, you know. I don't know. I'm sure they shoot tons of stuff in LA, but it's crazy to me that that's the biggest perk of being like a successful director. You know, these laws and like how you let mortgage, being able to use a mortgage to take out a loan, you know, it's like these are the things that like drive our economy. Building equity, being able to bind shit. Oh, I can use this as a collateral to take out a loan, and I put this money into this, and I start a corporation, I sell shares in it. Like, it's just like there's loopholes that drive what actually gets done. And I'm not saying that this is like a government, there's too much regulation. I'm saying it's like, it's almost like there's not enough. You know, it's like they created all these laws at a time to incentivize this or that, you know, to incentivize a certain kind of development. It's like, okay, well, we have enough of that. We need to change it again. You know, I think that's one of the problems with our government. It doesn't react fast enough to changes in our fucking lives. Like, how much have our fucking lives changed over the last 30 years because of technology, this or that? Our living situation, you know, the amount of money that shit costs, the amount rent is, blah, blah, blah. You'd think the government could help us, but it doesn't, it doesn't respond to this stuff. I don't know. I suppose they try with the interest rates or this or that, but it just takes so long to change a law and I have those lines about San Francisco collapsing. I forget. Maybe I saw a TikTok video about that. I don't know. I don't remember where I saw it, but they said that San Francisco could collapse. And San Francisco could be the next Detroit. And I'm like, you know, that would be... I would move there. I would absolutely move there. If San Francisco was Detroit, I would fucking move there. If I could get a fucking... You know, a livable fucking apartment that's like affordable because the economy collapses there and all the tech people move out, I think that would be a huge win for like the culture in this whole fucking country. And the sooner that something like that can happen, the better. Those people are just fucking... They're worse than the mafia. They just stole every business simultaneously. They disrupted every business simultaneously. You know, they're very anti-union. You know, Amazon, fucking Uber, whatever it is. Streaming put Hollywood out of business, sort of, in a way. They're just like this huge fucking mafia, and it's full of just like, you know, it's not a bunch of like Silicon Valley hippies from California. You know, tech has sort of wedded capital. They see an opportunity for power there, and you know, I'm sure they're all monopolies, all these huge fucking monopolies. I'm sure they hate you know, they're all trying to get around government regulation and shit. Peter Thiel or whoever. And tech scum out of San Francisco would be amazing. If you know, I mean, it's already, you know, whatever. I haven't been there in a few years, but, and I'm not trying to like celebrate. I think that a lot of these things are not what they appear, though. A lot of times when they say, "Whoa, this place is a cesspool," you know, like New York in the fucking 70s or whatever. Not that I would glamorize that time necessarily overly too much, but You know, to certain people, they loved it the way it was. And yet, the narrative, oh, it was a dirty place, it was dangerous, this or that. That's what they say about San Francisco now. That's what they say about any kind of blue city. It's like, oh, these fucking blue cities, that's what they get. These liberal mayors, you get what you vote for. You get a bunch of homeless people in the street and, you know, bipping and splashing and stealing and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, I don't know what's going on. I haven't been to San Francisco in a few years, but if it became a place that like people could actually afford to live, and I would go there. I absolutely would go there. Like, if all the tech people were just like, ooh, this is gross, there's too many homeless people, and they left, I think that would be magnificent. And I would go there. If I could live in fucking San Francisco and like have an apartment, I don't think that's gonna happen with New York. I don't think that like people are gonna get sick of it. It's too heavily policed. It's just crazy. And to be honest, there's just like the finance. I have that other line about where's my fucking what I do? Douchebag bro bars. What is it? Degree factory party districts where business grads hose down society. That's like, how is every fucking city become a degree factory party district where business grads hose down society? You know, like the Lower East Side, sloppy donkey. Everything's like this frat bar. And as the frat people have gotten older, they've kind of graduated like in the West Village and shit. You know, like when I see Taylor Swift and these elite or whatever, you know, middle-aged women culture, it's like you're just frat people. You're sorority people, like your Big Ten, your state school, and degree factory party districts. Somehow, just like all of our major cities have become degree factory party districts where business grads hose down society. And where do we go? What are we supposed to do? That's why I'm hoping San Francisco collapses. If San Francisco were to collapse, it'd become like a utopia for, because the infrastructure, you know, is what's significant to us as artists. You know, we can really just sustain ourselves there in beauty like we deserve to. And to be honest, I don't know. I think I'd like the climate and whatnot of San Francisco just better. You know, being in New York this time of year, and just like, I don't know, man. It's just like you just get ground down by how fucking just like grim. New York is just like, it's money, and it's like you're a winner, you're a loser. You're a success, you're not a success. You're you know, you're like, you're fucking super tall. You're and there's just, and it's just gray. It's like there's no kind of respite. I don't know. You know, San Francisco has this kind of fucking, I don't know. The landscape kind of is more alive there. You know, New York is just so civilization and just now it's just, you know, it belongs to the wealthy. It's just tiers of wealth, right? Even like the poor people I know are still like, you know, they would have been like up the hill kids. When in Grandview Heights, it was up the hill, down the hill. You know, up the hill was Marble Cliff. If you were really wealthy, you lived in Marble Cliff, which probably had its own tax code or something. But that was like, people had tennis courts. NFL players lived in Marble Cliff. It was, whereas down the hill was like, you know, it was a flood area. We lived across from the electrical power plant and the train tracks. Next to the electrical field, which may have been some kind of super fun site, God knows. I mean, it wasn't really, but I'm sure, you know, there was a reason why it was like this kind of housing and stuff. And there were a lot of hillbillies down the hill. It was like, it wasn't the most hood shit ever, per se. But it was clearly a class differential. Lower middle class, single mothers, whatever. And then upper middle class people basically up the hill. And so, even the fucking poor people I know here are like probably upper middle class, I would say. And then there's just like rich people and you're not even allowed to be around them. They think they're so fucking great. They think they're so fucking great. And, it's hard being poor. And no one gives a fuck, No one gives a fuck because there's no poor people here. Everybody who goes to the fucking New School or NYU or Pratt or whatever the fuck, Columbia, they're all rich. And they're fucking, they're Nepo babies. or they're, they're not white. You are not white. You are not white. I think one of the most fucked up, hilarious things you can say. I don't know where I heard that or saw that. Some clip, something. You are not white. Some hateful person. That's an advantage, in the human capital. If you want to be, we're all just human capital in New York. That's the most disgusting part. It all feels like human trafficking. It's like, are you sexy? Are you cool? Are you clout? Do we want to be adjacent to you? Are you in, the Whitney Review? Are you sexy? Sexy alt-lit. Are you Twitter famous? How many followers do you have? And, I don't know. Where'd you go to college? Did you go to fucking... Alright, so anyway. I'm vastly underqualified. I'm a hick. I'm a hillbilly. I should be in community theater. I should be teaching middle school theater. I should be teaching middle school theater somewhere in the Midwest. That's what they wanted for me, okay? If they would have had their choice, I would have gone to Chicago and done Second City. And I would have been some kind of servant to the fascist corporate god. Like all of these fucking cock smokers on SNL. Just placating and fondling the fucking taint of the colonialists and the imperialists. Rockefeller Center, okay? Google it. As poets, we are catapulting our tiny bodies against the walls of power, crushing ourselves to make a little blood smear, to show them, hey, we tried to tear you down. We tried to do the right fucking thing. We tried to get on YouTube and fucking sound the fucking bell. And Ashley is flying back to the United States right now as we speak. We're being viewed in the air, in international waters, 30 fucking thousand feet in the air. We are fucking super galactic on this goddamn broadcast. I broadcast for aliens, okay? My target audience is aliens, okay? If the aliens are listening, rescue me, please. Please make these people smart so they understand my poetry. I don't know. I get it. I'm underwhelming. I'm an incompetent dilettante, okay? I get it. Just allow me why can't I just be like Scott Baio or something? Give me a reality show. Give me 5 minutes of a reality show. Can you put me on a Real Housewives? That's the only fucking thing anybody cares about. Apparently these Real Housewives are very important culturally. They're like the feminist icons. Yes, Queen. Yes, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Who gives a fuck? This is what I'm talking about. Glamorizing sociopaths. Reprehensible sociopaths. Put them on TV. Now, I haven't seen the show, so I'm criticizing something I've never seen. But, where's the Real Housewives of New York City poetry? That's what I want to know. Real Housewives of New York City poetry. Now that would be a fucking hit. That's what little children all over America should be watching. That's what the people who have cable television or streaming or whatever the fuck it is they're watching in the zombie fucking 48, where everybody's just fucking plugged into their third eye to the cathode ray sunshine, obliterating their originality with fucking... Apparently heavy metal is, like, fading culturally. What the fuck are people listening to? I thought people wanted everything to sound like Dragon Force or Trans-Siberian Orchestra. I'm surprised Trans-Siberian Orchestra is not like the most popular band in the world. Because everybody I know where I came from, that's like their favorite. That whatever that typifies, people like. I don't know. That's why we had to flee to the woke metropolis, the woke bubble, the safe space. And why was I talking about Real Housewives? There was a point. I had a point. Have a fucking reality show about New York City poetry, for Christ's sake. These are role models, okay? What we're doing, apparently Gen Alpha, like 2/3 of them are not reading at grade level. Gen Alpha is just going to be like stupid because of the pandemic. This is what I'm hearing. Gen Z is like, Gen Z thinks Gen Alpha is stupid. And Gen Z is already like just communicating in these bizarre terms that you're just like, what are these kids are like, must have been drinking fucking pixie sticks in the embryo. That's what I get with Gen Z. It's just like they've been slurping since they were fucking fetuses. In the womb, they had a Slurpee umbilical to an icy machine. But these Gen Alpha kids apparently are just like, I don't know. We'll see. We have to rescue them. You know? That's why I bet Gen Alpha is going to love my poetry. My poetry is so fucking stupid. Gen Alpha is going to be like, yo, this shit slaps, dog. This shit's the Riz. Like my goddamn live stream. If you're watching this and you haven't liked this yet, come on. Help a brother out. Like my fucking live stream, okay? Like it. Like it, like it, like it, like it. Gen Alpha is going to love my fucking poetry. Gen Alpha is going to read all of my books and be like, yo, this shit is speaking to me. This is lit, lit, lit. See, I'm 10 steps ahead. That's what that's what the New Yorker magazine doesn't understand. All right, so maybe I should read. This is for Gen Alpha. Okay? The most lit-ass generation. Gen Z, you ain't shit. Gen Alpha is the most lit-ass. Apparently. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck. Okay, so this was last year. Christmas last year. I had this whole sequence. Oh, boy. He went into business. Okay. 12/24. Christmas in Manhattan. Christmas in Manhattan. What the hell are you trying to pull, King of Beige? It's Andy Williams time. Is Dante autofiction? I read The Inferno after college. Let Dave, my IT neighbor, who worked for Nationwide, borrow it. Never saw it again. He probably needed it more than me. Am I an asshole in my poetry? Sorry. I take things seriously. I'm nice, but I'm a bad person underneath. Not kind, selfish, judgmental. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Can I get sued for saying that? Mel Brooks is an omelet enthusiast. He keeps a cookbook about them on his bedside reading table. Klaus Oldenburg keeps coming up. His diary movies, or Eno's diary. Can we go to the Whitney on Christmas? It's 14 degrees, oh holy night. Profession YouTube DJ. Does Michael C. Ford have a Christmas song? Looking at the streets of Rome every time I take a piss. I live a block from where C. Clement Moore wrote "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." Cognitive recognitions making village rent. Pray for me. I'm giving myself things I already own as presents. Watched Two of Us, VH1 docudrama about Lennon McCartney hangout in Dakota, 1976. An early history of water wearing disguise. That's not Central Park. Just dropped acid, 7:07 p.m. Christmas Eve. 12:25 midnight mass. Does this count as tomorrow? Hans, Bubby, I'm your white knight. Spending Christmas alone is just fine with me. It's so cold people are going to hurt themselves. We visit our loved ones on video screens, ruled by fear. An open mic is folk art, the history of the universe written in our DNA. I don't want to be a poet. I want to do this. My billy club, the nightstick. Wounded by our parents made us incompetent. Self-thwarting adults. Where is Bernadette Mayer's archive? Symphonic Tapworm, Sergeant Peppercorn Marathon. There are laws, and then there are circumstances. Susan attended a taping of The Tonight Show with Jay Leno in 1994. The guests were Tony Braxton and Robin Leach. Afterward, Jay Leno gave her a tour of his garage. Dad reading westerns in jail, eating stale donuts. Janet Ivanovich novel on Audible. Favorite shows include Burn Notice and La Femme Nikita. Would rather waste my time than give it to you. Jesus Christ was born today. 12:28, I have to deal with my life. Family ties, growing pains, who's the boss? Have to deal with you first because I want to and should have. What is the sun when it rains? She wouldn't let me lay on her bed or use her private bathroom. Wind in the willows, you had shown us palm. The last deep alone I had. Getting older, studio visiting, the Nebraska school. John Lennon will produce your album. The town where I grew up is no longer there. Disfigured and refashioned by overdevelopment. Trash compactor time cubes me, $25 eighths. You get diarrhea from your hands, carrying laundry bag on the train. Transfer at Fulton, slice of pizza while I wait for banh mi. Half pumpkin pie last night, the end. Oh my God, how far we've fallen. Okay, so then this was, okay. What should I talk about here? Anything? Nationwide. I saw this video the other day, okay? Tim Dillon, I'm sorry, I apologize. Talking about the best thing you can do. He loves just corporate culture. He's just a kind of a simp for corporate culture. And the best thing you can do is be an insurance agent at a small and sell insurance. It's like that's what Columbus, Ohio is. That one of the biggest employers is Nationwide Insurance. And so when I lived on Denison, which was like a bohemian neighborhood, right? It was the short north. So it was like the East Village it was like the West Village, right? In a way, of Columbus, Ohio. And everybody who lived around me was a finance bro. It was a fucking party district. You know, it was a state school party district. And I think they all fucking work for Nationwide. Everybody. The people next to me literally had a beer pong table on their fucking porch. And here I am reading Frank O'Hara, writing poetry, you know, screening Paris, Texas on my wall. My dinner with Andre. Meanwhile, I'm surrounded by barbarians. They all work for Chase. They all work for Nationwide. I don't glamorize this culture. It sucks. It's vacuumed all of the wealth out of people who actually create the value. It's the biggest fucking scam in history. You know, the people who create the values are the workers. The companies themselves are supposed to serve a functional fucking purpose. Their purpose is not just to just put money in shareholder bank account, which is what these people do. This is what finance fucking bros do. The bastards. You know, when we have the revolution, we should start with these fucking people. When we get the fucking guillotine, we should go to the fucking party district. What did I call it? Let me just look at it one more time. You know, even when I lived in Columbus, Ohio, it's like, what interest do these people have in these neighborhoods? Why do all of the worst people on earth want to live in the West Village? Degree factory party districts where business grads hose down society. Why? The West Village used to be like a queer utopia, you know, where people who were into gay, that's why there's all these sex shops and shit with all these leather and shit. Because it's like people used to do that there. Now it's just a bunch of fucking Taylor and Travis fuck faces. They're just they're white people. What more can you say? They're the same people who've been there. It's like a new aristocracy, the finance class. They just take all of the money, and the rest of us are poor and die. That's how it works now. That's the new plan. That's the the era that we live in. We can't afford anything. Bidenomics, everybody. I mean, I don't know. They just let these people own every fucking thing. The market. You know, these people they bow to the god of the market. And I just want to sell my little poetry books. And, you know, do my little tantrums in public, okay, where I speak in tongues. And let the people who have ears, let them hear, you know. The people who get the message, it turns them on and it helps them do good. You know, maybe people think I'm insane, but there are definitely people that I've inspired that have done things that were taken seriously. You know, there's people who took, you know, maybe ideas from what I was doing and actually achieved something with them. I might not be capable of that, but there are people out there who are. And like and subscribe. Okay, so anyway, last Christmas I gave you my heart, and the very next day you gave it away. So that was this is last Christmas. My life. I mean, last Christmas was a beautiful Christmas. I was in that apartment. Oh, it was magnificent. So this was. I had, like I said, I had a slice of pizza. I had a banh mi, and I had half a pumpkin pie. Andy Williams, you know, Dante. So, yeah, my friend, so this guy Dave, who worked for Nationwide Insurance, he was an IT guy. So he was like, you know, he went to OU, so he was like a little bit psychedelic, and he had done acid. You know, he was telling me, but I hadn't even done acid at that point. You know, I was more square than Dave was. Dave had done acid a bunch of times. Here I was. So he was interested in Dante for some reason. He reminds me of the people I met in New York who work in finance, actually. I don't know. They're like, there's something about their background. Their parents maybe forced them to do this or something. Who knows? They were supposed to get jobs. You know, my dad was like a bohemian, and my mom, you know, she sort of like harangued me to go to college, but like, there wasn't a whole lot of vision past that, I guess. I don't know. They always get, like, everybody in the Midwest condescends to you if you're trying to be an artist of any kind. Everybody, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with your English degree? What are you going to do with your theater degree? I'm going to move to open mic, and I'm going to, Freudian slip, I'm going to move to New York and host the biggest open mic, of 2023 when I'm 38 years old. That's what I'm going to do with my English degree from a Big Ten school, okay? I'm going to go out of my way to just work my ass off to put other people... You know, I film other people for my job. I put other people on stage. I do a lot to get people in front of other people. I've put a lot of fucking people on stage. That's what I did with my English degree, you condescending prick. And what did you do with your fucking life? Your parents bought you a fucking house when you're 24, and you've been living off the fucking mortgage for your whole adult life. What the fuck did you ever do? I wrote Live from the World, goddammit. I have a fucking vlog. I'm an impresario. I'm like a garbage. I'm a lo-fi garage I believe in DIY. I think DIY is the way. Everyone should be making art. Everyone should be good at art. Everyone can be good at art. Everyone can be good at art. Watch my vlogs. Get the subscription. You too can be good at art. Anyway, I guess I'm a bad artist. I don't give a fuck. I don't feel like a bad artist. I do not feel like a bad artist. I feel like I have, like I'm a, like, I don't know, whatever. But, I think it's important to keep the art alive and to do it funky, do it original, keep that human touch in there, keep that fingerprint in there, keep that mistake in there, and to blow people's minds. You know what I mean? We are trying to blow people's minds. What is it? Is Jimmy Fallon entertaining? I mean, this is entertaining? Is this entertaining? This is entertaining. I don't know. I try to entertain the fuck out of people. That is my number one goddamn goal in my poetry, is to entertain the fuck out of people. And I'd like to believe that I do that. But anyway, so Dave, my IT neighbor, you know, sometimes you meet people in life and you're like, he was kind of curious about me because he could tell that I was like, you know, I was writing in my diary and reading poetry and shit. And he's thinking, this guy's a little different. What's this guy's deal, you know? So we would talk, you know, we just talk about whatever, life, deep shit. It was like a Joe Rogan podcast, just bros chilling on my porch, talking about deep shit. And I think he maybe wanted to be a writer. He was interested in literature. He mentioned Dante. And so I let him borrow, I think it was Paradiso. Or was it Inferno? Maybe it was Inferno, which I actually read. I did read the Inferno, I think, when I was in college. The John Ciardi translation. There were these excellent editions which have like kind of a prose explanation of what it is before, and then there's the actual poem, and then there's like footnotes and drawings and shit. Because Dante is super fucking mathematically specific about everything. You know, the floors, it's all proportioned out kind of karmically and poetically. It's an allegory. Every step of the journey and the shape and the geography and the, you know, the way things are laid out is completely allegorical, and it's with mathematical precision. You know, like there's nothing in the Inferno that's like arbitrary. That's what's so amazing about it. It's just like, you know, he'll put certain things at a certain line mathematically that's just like, this is the 330 or whatever the fuck it is. You know, it's like everything is kind of like very specifically measured. And I don't know, that's one reason why I put the dates and shit in my work, because it's like there is in the same way that Dante, it's like the whole thing is like an allegory, or like, you know, the levels of hell, what people did and how they're punished is kind of proportioned out in this sort of like poetic justice, right? And but it's like a journey he's walking through, and he's kind of discovering this as he goes. He was in the middle of his life, he was lost in a dark wood, right? That's how it starts. He's middle-aged. In the middle of his life, he's lost in a dark wood. And so he's guided by Virgil, right? I guess. And it's a journey, right? It's a walking story, really. And the allegory kind of comes to them as they walk. And so, you know, Inferno, Purgatory, Paradise, right? Those are the three books and the three kind of altitudes. He's working his way up to the top, heaven, right? I never read the second two books. I should. It's one of those things that when you read it and you're young, particularly in a translation, it's like, you want to read it because it's a classic, but also like, you know, your consciousness isn't like fully developed and you're not, so it's like you're maybe not going to get as much out of it as you could. But I lent it to Dave. Dave wanted to read it, and he still has it, I think. And so I don't know, at that time it was like I had a whole life as a writer that was sort of private. I didn't really have I didn't publish. I had a blog, but it was like I hadn't really discovered open mics. I had been an English major in college, and that was over, right? It was like I was out of college, so I was still trying to figure out just like what my lifestyle and procedure would be as an artist. And like, most of the age 25 to 30 was just like trying to get on my feet economically and figure out a situation and how to be an artist, like practice wise as an adult, and just develop like, and even now, like a lot of my process is just about flux. Pretty much all of my process is just like, well, as a millennial, we've never had any fucking stability. We have nowhere to live. I have no studio. It's like I've lived in fucking 8 apartments in the last 5 years. It's like, and so I work with that. I do the best that I can, but it's like that's why all of my work doesn't really have a floor, because everything is shifting beneath us at all fucking times, and you got to live out of a fucking army duffel bag from the Army Navy store, like I have basically since I moved out of that apartment where I met Dave. I had this nice apartment in Columbus, Ohio. I had a fucking porch, 2-room apartment. I had a kitchenette thing, beautiful. Goodale Park, tennis court, the whole deal. Off-street parking, $550 a month, all included. Amazing views. For a poetry life, you couldn't really ask for anything more than that. I could have sustained like a poetry life if I could have made if I could have made $1,600 a month there, if I could have made $400 a week, right? I could have sustained my little poetry life. But then I moved to New York, and it's just like the whole process of, I don't know. I did not get lucky. Let's just say that. I did not. It didn't happen for me really. So it's like I'm still here, and it's just like I live here. And New York is about as easy a place to live financially, weirdly enough. Even though it's expensive, the infrastructure and the subway, the fact that you don't have to have a car, like, is just such a game changer. And for poetry life, it's like this was the kind of character you'd come up against in Ohio. Not that you're not going to meet that person here, but it's like, I thought I was the only person in Columbus, Ohio that even gave a fuck about poetry, really. I felt very alone. That's one of the things I liked about it. And so, at that point, you have all these kind of like, the society has sort of somewhat homophobic ideas about poetry. That it's gay or, poetry. That's like, who reads that? This guy's reading poetry? Like, that's kind of fucking unusual, this was 2010. Not that that was like, the immediate reaction, but I'm just saying, like, for me, it was like making the idea of poetry real and becoming a poet, figuring it out. You got to piece that together. How do I do that? I read books about it. I study how other people did it. They did readings. Okay, I'll do, I was already doing readings and shit before I found it, but it's like, at this time, I was still just a wedding DJ and a guy who worked in restaurants, basically. Even though I wrote constantly and considered that was like really, my form. It was a private thing. I was 25 though, And so sharing this with this guy, I don't know if he ever got out of that life. You know what I mean? He might still be chain smoking and fucking spending, $200 at the bar every weekend and working at goddamn Nationwide. For all I know. I don't know. I don't know what happened to that guy. But there is some sense that you have to like fight like hell to get out of your limiting kind of provincial hometown. And part of that is just like you kind of I know that I blinded myself to what was there because I did not want to be influenced really by Columbus that much. I didn't want to get that involved, which was kind of I should have just gotten up and running and doing things earlier so that when I came to New York, I was already firing on all cylinders. Whereas like when I came to New York, I kind of had to start from zero, where it's like, okay, I'll go to open mics here and there, and just even getting a job and paying for an apartment felt like just such a fucking huge effort that all I could do outside of that was like experience the city and like write in my fucking blog. I didn't really know about readings or anything like that at the time. I didn't know, and I was scared to get on stage. I was scared to do comedy or whatever. I was doing improv. That was like kind of the way I got involved when I first moved to New York, is I like sort of took improv classes, and I was afraid. I couldn't really develop because it's like it just costs so much money. You got to pay so much money to take classes, to have somebody coach you, to have agents look at you, whatever. And so, kind of by economic circumstances, I eventually guided myself to this, right? Where it's like I vlog, I live stream. I didn't figure out the pamphlets till like 2018. I didn't understand that you just self-publish. There's such a societal stigma against that. If you're self-publishing, you're not a real writer or something. That's what I thought. But it's like, that's insane. That's just like a corporate hegemonic kind of point of view. And so, New York was the school for me, really, to learn all of that stuff. That's where I, one at a time, sort of picked up this or that. The Mimeo thing kind of inspired me to do the pamphlets. But also just these people saying, when people that you admire are publishing themselves or their friends, and that's it, which like a lot of these second generation, third generation New York school people, it's like they were not necessarily being published in glamorous magazines all the time. They literally had to publish each other, and these are brilliant geniuses. And so there's nothing wrong with publishing yourself or doing whatever the fuck you can to get the message out. I prefer a grungy, slacker, garage. I like distortion. I like rough around the edges. I like shit gaze, right? When we were in Audible Detonation, we used to play with this band, Psychedelic Horseshit, who were like, people worshiped them in Columbus, Ohio. And we thought they were the worst fucking band. I didn't get it at all. They would play Like a Rolling Stone, and the bass player had like a shoebox that they played for like their drum. And it just sounded like dog, the fucking keyboard's just like this cheap ass. And the singer, it was shit gaze is what they called it. Like Times New Viking was like one of those bands, they were sort of known. That was like what was cool at Cafe Bourbon Street when I was 19 and 20 years old and we were doing Audible Detonation. We were sort of like a garage band. We were trying to be like a Nuggets band because I am like psychologically stunted by like dad culture. And like my whole life has been trying to like recreate dad culture for some reason. I thought dad culture was pretty good. That's why I'm trying to imitate the Mimeo shit, I guess. But, in any case, Psychedelic Horseshit was like, they liked us. We played this song, Psychotic Reaction by the Count 5. And this guy, Matt Horseshit, like, loved that we played this fucking song. Because he thought it was about tripping. None of us had ever done any, I didn't even smoke weed at this point. We were all super sober. We weren't like straight edge or anything, but like none of us drank even hardly. And Psychedelic Horseshit thought we were like psychonauts or something. Because we played fucking Psychotic Reaction. And a lot of the Nuggets stuff is like psychedelic music, which even the poetry, if you look at second generation New York school, if you look at something like Tambourine Life or Coolidge or anything from that 65, 66 era, it feels a lot like Nuggets. It feels a lot like psychedelic music. It feels like I had too much to dream last night, or the Standells, or that's what I like about it. I do think that there was sort of a democratic quality to that music where hit songs could come from anywhere. People were starting bands everywhere, all over the country, and hit songs were coming from everywhere. You know, Louie Louie or whatever the fuck it is. I do think that that's like ideal. You know, in a perfect culture, we would just have, and that's kind of what YouTube, you know, garage bands everywhere. That's kind of what YouTube represents in a way. Or I, you know, maybe influencer is sort of like that, but influencer has a glossy, like, narcissistic, it's all like a big makeup fucking commercial. You know, it's all just like super, uh we're wealthy and don't you wish you had this? You know, like that's not artistic to me. That's where like content and art kind of blur. It's like if you're a lifestyle influencer who's like in Dubai, like posting just like pictures of like your fucking dinner or like nails or whatever it is, you know, your clothes. It's like that's commerce. You know, that's an ad. It's just you're sort of like not famous, and it's not a famous photographer. It's just like amateur. They basically crowdsourced everything, right? They've crowdsourced content, but it's not really content. It's like, you know, there was this uh, comedian had this bit I thought was kind of interesting about, you know, if somebody took you to their house in the 90s and they had photo albums that were literally just like printouts of what their Instagram feed is, you'd think they're fucking crazy. You know, if somebody had a photo album and it was all selfies, right? Like, I definitely, when selfies first started to happen, it definitely felt a little bit like inappropriate or uncouth to me, and very narcissistic and vain. People like suddenly, as a society, it's okay for us to like stare at ourselves in the mirror and publish it on the internet and ask for validation and receive validation for that. I've talked about this before. It's like people, I mean, I think people look at it like it's a form of empowerment or something, or like we should feel good about ourselves, and yeah, like good, yeah, you go and all this. But it's like, it's super narcissistic. It's super fucking vain. And like, a lot of our culture rewards that kind of fucking behavior now. And it's like, uh, the internet, or, you know, it's, I don't know, the algorithm just kind of rewards, it's not rewarding like quality, like these kind of nuggets, right? Like these were sort of earworm pop songs that sort of made their way onto the charts purely because they appealed to people and they had a particular sound that like is still infectious. I mean, that's why I love oldies radio. If you listen to a lot of these songs like Farfeets or fucking organs and shit, these hooks, a song like Double Shot of My Baby's Love, you know, or 96 Tears, these hooks are just like they it doesn't sound like current music. Current music all has like a lot of digital, like you just have to. That's what life sounds like now. But those songs to me are still as infectious as they ever were. And that's part of why they've lasted. And the recordings are infectious. You know, the recordings are kind of like perfect objects. And that's kind of what's you know, that's what's miraculous and kind of freakish about like a one-hit wonder. That you're like, how did they do that? These people never did this before or after, but they captured lightning in a bottle one time. And, you know, pop songs do kind of give us the illusion of like perfection. It's like when you hear them, you're like, how did they think of that? Like, that is a perfect, if you know, if something like Every Breath You Take didn't exist, or Owner of a Lonely Heart, or any number, you know, Hey Jude, you know, if these songs didn't exist, you couldn't imagine that. You know, like you can't imagine a world where they don't exist because they're so like, that was always there. It's such a perfect object. And so like when Louie Louie happens, it's almost just like this freak 1 in a million uh, uh, lightning strike, where it's like the drum solo just happened to be that way, the guitar solo just happened to be that way, and these are just 5 fucking dudes that probably like work at like a car dealership or a fucking, you know, they're just guys. You know, that's what it felt like when me and my friends were starting a band when like 18 or 19. It felt like these are just like guys from high school, and we're like those guys. We're more like the Kingsmen or the Sonics or just some fucking white guys from Tacoma or something, than or you know, the swinging medallions. As much, you know, then we, as much as we wanted to be the Beatles or whatever, the Beach Boys, you know, it was more like we're like, and I don't know. I think I take that obviously aesthetic to everything, but anyway, did I finish this already? Did I read all this? I guess I did. Oh, I have another Christmas thing. That was just sort of a lecture about escaping from selling insurance. It's not the best thing to do in this country, actually, okay? I think what we're doing, reading poetry deep into the night, I don't know. Is anybody having a breakthrough? Is anybody on the cutting edge? Are we doing anything? You know, like with these other poets, maybe we're breaking new ground, language poets or whoever, I don't know. When Charles Bernstein and Bruce Andrews, or, you know, when the sonnets came out, when Burnett Mayer was 19 years old writing this shit, it's like there was some sense probably, whoa, where did this come from? We've never seen this before. Is anybody doing that now? I don't know. The point, I guess, is to create some kind of sphere where that can be possible, where we can actually have, you know, perfect one-hit wonder type hits. Why can't we write hits? God damn it. You know? Even though a lot of times when poems are hits, they're bad. Like, what was that that Patricia Lockwood poem that went viral? You know, when a poem goes viral, like Good Bones, right? Maggie Smith's from Columbus, actually. She's from Columbus, Ohio. You know, if I was successful at poetry, I would be like the 5th most successful poet in Columbus, Ohio. Like Hanif Abdurraqib lives in Columbus, Maggie Smith lives in Columbus, Saeed Jones lived in Columbus. Like, there's a lot of esteemed poets that live there. But Maggie Smith had that poem, Good Bones. And she's like famous, sort of, I guess. You couldn't really do any better than that. But, I mean, is Good Bones like the howl of our generation? I mean, to me, it's like Good Bones is like NPR porridge. It's oatmeal for white people. It's not like, it doesn't have the sauce. It's not Influx. It's not Gen Alpha, okay? It's, or Patricia Lockwood. I think Patricia Lockwood is from, or she lives in Chicago. You know, all this culture, all this milquetoast culture comes out of Chicago. Because that is like the step between the middle of the country, the Midwest, and like the big coastal. You know, it's like, it's, you know, when SNL casts people, they don't go to fucking comedy clubs in New York City. If you listen to every one of these fucking comedians talk about where they got cast, it was either in Chicago or LA. They were in the fucking Groundlings, or they were doing stand-up, or Second City. That's where SNL goes. Lorne Michaels is lazy, okay? They haven't learned anything since, like, they fucking started. You know, they've been casting people. They rarely cast, like, New York stand-up comedians. It's always, like, Dana Carvey. You know, those guys all got recommended by Dennis Miller. Fucking Dennis Miller, I don't know how they cast Dennis Miller, but they basically asked Dennis Miller, like, who should we get? He said, get Dana Carvey, get Kevin Nealon, Get these guys. Get David Spade. You know, it's like they're lazy. They went to fuck. These guys were all living in L.A. in the Hollywood Hills doing stand-up comedy. You know, they weren't like in the bowels of like New York fucking comedy clubs. Like in a certain way, the New York sensibility is a little too edgy. You know, like something like Seinfeld, I think they took a chance on. The only way somebody like Larry David even got into a sitcom was because Jerry Seinfeld was sort of this amicable figure and kind of a likable, clean-cut guy. You know, it's like that New York sensibility. It's like on Saturday Night Live, it's almost always people from fucking Second City, right? Or the Groundlings or something. It's not like, I don't know. Who are stand-up comedians from New York? Maybe fucking Colin Quinn, I guess Pete Davidson. These fucking guys might... I think even John Mulaney, like, got cast out of Chicago or something. You know, it was like he did some stand-up set in fucking Chicago that, like, the SNL talent people, like, flew there because they want a middle American sensibility because that's their fucking audience. You know, they have to appeal to the flyover states because that's their advertisers, you know? So it's like they're more in touch with that shit. I think even Adam Sandler, he was saying that like they all, you know, because it's like a lot of times these guys will all audition at once and a bunch of them will get cast at once. Like the story about Louis C.K. tells his story about, and I apologize. He tells his story about in the 94 season, they like fired a bunch of people and got a whole new cast. And they came to the Comedy Cellar. The SNL talent people came to the Comedy Cellar. Robert Smigel and people. And they saw Sarah Silverman, Janine Garofalo, I think. I can't remember who all it was. But it was like, they basically hired everybody except for Louis C.K. They did not hire Louis C.K. So he felt like shit because all of his friends got hired except for him. And he got the head writer job on Conan because somebody recommended him, blah, blah, blah. So he got a job anyway. But it's like, you know, a lot of times it's like the SNL people go to one fucking show and they'll hire like 3 people. You know, it's like, oh, we saw Adam Sandler, we want that guy. You know, it's like, I don't think they're doing, you know, they're not like scouting the nation like it's fucking American Idol. It's like these sources, Second City, Groundlings, UCB to some extent maybe, and like I guess like just like the stand-up comedy or now like maybe the viral circuit. These are like the ways that sort of like pre-select people from the greater pool of like would-bees. You know, they just go and see the fucking review or whatever, like the highlight show. And then they'll call people in, you know, who stand out. And I don't know, whatever. It's too fucking late. Anyway, let me read these other Christmas poems for everybody. Thank you for watching. I got no likes on this. That's where I'm at in life. No likes. Two viewers, no likes. All right. December 24th, Super Meadows Essence. Behind enemy lines. 22 bases in 15 days. They like having a war. Keeps the home fires burning. Forgotten by the culture at large. Filming himself. Yes, that fits there. 3 a.m. Christmas morning. Watching them is like editing them. Key change in Oh Holy Night. By the time you get this message, the problem will have been solved. Too cold to go anywhere. Woke up one day and I was famous. After that, everybody on Earth knew who they were. Darlings of the New York media. I like pretentious, aspiring to be smart. Gravel pathways in the night sky. I didn't pray today either, but it's all I did. Knowing when to stop. I didn't get anything for Christmas. The pillow-like rustication of the Stones. Giving money just feels cheap. I wish it was you I woke up next to on Christmas. We could have had sex on Christmas. Grabbed a handful of condoms on my way out the door. taking the nipple softly into my mouth. Picture cars on the anatomy of the Potomac performing an autopsy. You're making them come alive, or something like that. So yeah, this was last year at this time, basically. I'm talking about the show, watching them is like editing them. Forgotten by the culture at large. I mean, I was just talking about this. Filming himself, yes, I like pretentious. I like when people try to be pretentious. It's like a crime in our dumbass culture to just even, once again, everybody is watching Twitch streams. I saw this thing the other day. First Twitch streamer ever playing the O2 Arena in London. A live fucking, he's playing video games on his, he moved his whole, like, gamer den into the O2 Arena. He's got his desk, his gaming chair, he's on his mouse, he's got his flat screen, and there's an arena full of people watching this guy at his fucking computer play online games. I don't know. I weep for the future. I weep for the culture. We're trying to make people as pretentious as possible. We're aspiring to be smart, not dumb. We want to kind of intimidate people with our intelligence and confuse people. People should aspire to be goddamn smart. It's become too glamorous, since fucking George Bush was president. It's become too acceptable to just be a dumbass. And, we're going to risk erudition, and we're, I don't know. We're trying to be classe and articulate in a space that is, it's just like these YouTube videos are just reinforcing what people already think they know. I was watching this video about, because now I'm getting into these think pieces. They're all the same, all these YouTube think pieces. It's a person talking, they're into the camera like this, they cut all of the spaces between, they do that thing where they like zoom in and then zoom out again on a cut. This one was about social media, why it's bad for you. Screen fasting, right? I was talking about screen fasting, which I have not been doing. I'm on TikTok basically like, the average American supposedly watches 7 hours of TV a day. That's me in TikTok. I mean, that's the way I like validate it or justify it. It's just like, well, your average American watches TV 7 hours a day. It's like, what's wrong? Well, so I'm just on TikTok. I'm hyper learning. So I have things to talk about on my live stream. As I'm watching, it's just like, oh my God, there's so much to talk about. I should talk about this. But, there's so many issues that need to be addressed in our culture immediately. There's so many, it's like best week ever, but it's all jumbled together, and it's, we try to talk about politics, economics, social structure, class structure, gender dynamics, the sexual marketplace, art, we're teaching, it's an ongoing poetry workshop, history of poetry, we're your virtual friend. We're your virtual buddy. We're like a Chucky doll. Whatever happens to me, they can take all of the fucking video of me online and put it into some kind of AI, and they can generate anything they want. The future of performance is like these hologram performers. These brands that like have made it into public consciousness, they never want to die. It's like the people that were famous just want to be famous forever. It's like Kiss is going to be a virtual band now. Or I saw ABBA. ABBA is like doing these concerts like once a week or something that are like virtual, or it's like holograms or something of them. And people are paying real money to see this shit. And so this is like Kiss just did their farewell tour, but they're still going to go on tour. It's going to be these fucking holograms. And it's like, I do feel like this is one reason why the culture is stagnated. Because, like, the boomer culture just like made things so like household names. Certain things are just like so once again this feeling of like it's always been there. Something like Kiss, anything that was just like a brand, Star Wars. It just feels like these things are like they're permanent now. You know, like Star Wars was a movie that came out in 1976 and yet people want new content of this. They don't want some new thing. They don't want a new Star Wars. They want the old one. They just want more of it. You know, they want Lord of the Rings. They want these famous brands. They want a new fucking Beatles song. They want a new Rolling Stones album. They want a fucking, because these things are so goddamn famous. A new Indiana Jones movie, Guardians of the Galaxy, whatever. You know, intellectual property. It's the same fucking thing. It's just like, I'm a consumer. I trust these brands. These brands are like, you know, that's very hard to like charm an audience into like becoming beloved. You know, that's what really good entertainers are able to do. You know, on a mass scale, when you see somebody like Charlie Chaplin or whatever, McCartney is just like, you know, everybody he's beloved to everybody. And we all know about him. We know he plays a Hofner and this and that. There's certain trademarks, right? The Beatles were really good at like lore and like branding and shit. The story of how it happened and the guitars they used and the logo and all this shit, the covers. You know, like they were really good at just like bullet that shit right into people's brains. And it hasn't gone away. The recordings, you know, they were the first generation ever that were able to make photorealistic, audio realistic recordings. And so their songs have not aged. They're still young songs, even though it was 60 fucking years ago at this point. And they still sell. You know, and so in a certain way the culture is stagnated because we are just like, we're not allowing anything new. You know, we're just listening to these same fucking songs over and over again. How many times can you hear fucking Brown Eyed Girl? You know, it's ruined these songs. I can't even listen to any Motown song. You know, Motown is something that the first time you hear it, and it's like, what? This is like angelic. This is like the most beautiful music. And it's been in so many fucking commercials and movies, and just like, you go to the mall, when you eat in a restaurant, anywhere you go, there's the audio pollution of just like pop music, generic pop music hits. Brown Eyed Girl, Motown, every fucking, and it's like, these songs are like wallpaper at this point, and it's ruined them. Basically, but they've also become like the de facto, just kind of default climate. It's like they're inoffensive, they're omnipresent, and nothing new like bubbles up anymore in the same way. It's just the way that boomer culture. Why we have a president that's 80 fucking years old. You know, it's like you have to get rid of the old shit to make room for the new shit, you know? And culturally, that's just not happening. You know, I think, like I was talking yesterday about hip-hop has been the dominant cultural force for 50 years. It's like, well, you didn't see that, you know, in the 50s. Think about how music was in the 50s. Rock and roll, jazz, whatever. Rockabilly. You know, Elvis was the biggest thing in the 50s. Then the 60s, the technology changed. The sound changed a lot. It became folk rock, the Beatles, whatever, rock, the Stones, whatever it was, British Invasion. Then the 70s, boom, it changed again. Disco, fucking singer-songwriter shit, acoustic, the Eagles, country, you know, whatever. Then the 80s, boom, a whole other fucking thing came in. A whole new culture came in, you know. New lingo, new fucking everything. And it's like, it's kind of been the same fucking culture since about 1980. You know, once things kind of hit a certain fidelity, and like awareness, public awareness, just people like trust what they've already seen. You know, they want to discover new things, but as an artist, it's hard to break in that way, right? It's hard to get people to endear yourself, to get people to go on the journey with you. You know, like if you think of something like the Beatles as an example, just because it's famous, it's like a whole generation of people like went on a journey, Like the Beatles are a part of their lives, right? When they were fucking 7 years old, they all saw them on the Ed Sullivan Show. They remember it, right? They remember when this album came out. They remember when the movie came out. Blah blah blah. As they got older, the fuck, you know, and so it's like, as an artist, it's just like it feels harder and harder to endear yourself to people and get known. I don't know. There's no. The internet maybe just exposes how many people are out there trying, and sort of the anthill of people sort of squirming to try to make it to the mountaintop, and how few people actually do, you know? The 0.0001%. And I don't know. In our generation, it's like, I don't know how that kind of talent develops. You know, you either have something that just like speaks to tons of people, or you don't. I don't know. I think that's kind of what talent is, right? There's certain things that, like, if you can create it and it hooks people's attention, they can record that and send it out over the internet. Now it's like, send it out through TikTok, send it out through Instagram, send it out through YouTube, whatever. I don't know. I just find the culture super fucking bland. The people that are like famous YouTubers are all just like, they're like cultural cliches, but they're also like, they seem like you're in on something hip or something. It's like, oh, this is like an e-girl, or like this is like some cool like fucking Korean guy that's like talking about fucking what was I just watching some fucking video? This guy, now I'm like seeing all these video essays on YouTube where it's like there's this whole genre. This is what I mean. It's just like it's almost like a paint by numbers business or something. It's like make an essay about some kind of controversial trend in the fucking culture. And the one I was watching one, it was about female narcissism. And this, I know this is a delicate topic, but this is something I want to talk about, because I do think that our culture has it has put a lot of value on female beauty over the last, I mean, probably forever, but particularly, the advertising industry. One of the reasons why there's so much toxic masculinity is because objectifying images of women were used to sell us everything. Highly sexualized images of women. We were exposed to tons of distorting media that sort of give us the wrong idea. Rape culture, maybe you might say. Some aspect of it, but also just like advertising. Imrata, right? The first time you ever saw Imrata was a fucking commercial for Carl's Jr. or something. It was some giant cheeseburger, and basically the whole ad was just like, get these chicks, put them in like cutoffs and like cleavage, and have them eating this fucking big ass cheeseburger, and it's dripping all over their cleavage. It's like, that's why she's famous. She was in the fucking Blurred Lines video. It's like, the fucking song is called Blurred Lines. It's like, they know that this is a motivating factor for a lot of men, so they use it. They harness that power to sell us everything, and to glamorize a certain lifestyle. James Bond, music videos. They've all got tons of fucking chicks in their music video. Whatever. It's like, that's created, the toxic masculinity in people's fucking minds and shit. Because it's a distorted reality, right? And men do have sort of like this. Couple that with the sort of feminist uprising of the millennials. And so now it's like you have, um, women are getting so much fucking validation because of the way they look. Because that's the only way men know how to communicate to attractive women, is to compliment them and, oh wow, that was so great, or you look great, or this or that, or whatever. I saw in the comments of some TikTok video today something about guys were talking about how they got their yearly compliment. Like, I don't think women understand what it's like for men. The difference, like, people are not just validating you all the time for no fucking reason. In fact, you're never really getting validated, hardly ever, for anything. No, these are a bunch of sad men in the comments saying they got their yearly compliment. It's like, especially over the last few years where the culture has just shit all over men. We're trash, we're toxic. We really got our comeuppance. I think it was a revenge on hookup culture. I think there was so much hookup culture when people were in their 20s, and men were ghosting and treating women badly. And so there had to be like a few years of retribution where women just said, fuck you, you toxic pieces of shit. You cannot just ghost us. You have to go to therapy and communicate. Learn how to communicate. Get communication skills. But, okay, so, we don't get validation. Don't get me wrong, like, women are fucking super goddamn talented. The women of our generation are incredible. They are they are the leaders, right? I think I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that. I just don't want to be vilified and squashed because I'm totally fine to support women and have them be the fucking cultural leaders. I think it's high time. That doesn't mean that they have to like take it out on us. I mean, okay, there's been 5,000 years of oppression. Okay, all right, we get it. Sorry. We're sorry we did that. Chill. What are you, on your period? What have you been on your period since 2016? Like, we're sorry. Like, guys are not that unattractive. Guys have their own beauty. Guys have their own... Men should... I mean, I know that sounds corny, but it's like... And I don't want to celebrate men because a lot of millennial men are fucking stupid looking. They have stupid hair. They have stupid clothes. But I'm cool. I'm a beautiful man, goddammit. I think I'm a role model for masculinity. I like being a beautiful man. But I feel like a woman. I feel like a woman. I feel like a beautiful woman. And that's why I'm sort of in this weird place. Is like culturally, I feel like I'm like one of these Taylor Swift. I'm a Swiftie. Basically, I ask anybody. I was into Taylor Swift in 2009. My boss at Sushi Inn got me Taylor Swift Fearless at the office Christmas party in 2009. Okay? It was public knowledge, okay? I'm basically like a bad bitch, okay? It's just I'm trapped in this man's body, in this 5'8" man's body. I'm such a baddie. I would be such a baddie, but I'm trapped in this fucking toxic body. No, I love my body. I love the fuck out of my body. I don't get why the culture hates me and dismisses me. The thing I have, and I do want to talk about the height thing. It is a never-ending, because I do think it's a cultural issue. It's not just a sex thing. It's not a sex thing, actually. People are dismissive of you, and women especially look at you like you're subhuman if you're not 6 feet tall. The shorter you are, the less that you're like you're like ew. You're just like you're not even human to them. So there's ways that we are dehumanized as well. It's not all a fucking two-way. It's not all us being shitty to them. We've been getting beat up for the last few years, and it's high time that you fucking hear about it, all right? There's some things that we're not happy about either. No, I'm just kidding. I love women. It would be easier to support them. Like, I went to the fucking march. I went to the Million Woman March on Inauguration Day 2017. I was there to support women, you know? Like, don't beat me up. Like, I'm not even doing that to try to, get action. It's like, I do think women are incredible. They're incredibly smart. They're incredibly, they're analytical. They discuss things. They examine nuance. That's why it can be difficult sometimes for some men to talk to them, because women are seeing a lot of levels and shit to stuff that men are just clueless about. And so, like, there shouldn't be a divide. There should be comfort and trust between the genders. That's not contingent on sex, and we shouldn't sexualize them as much. But okay, so what our culture, the women are not only killing it with their jobs and their talent and their intelligence, and they all went to college. More of them went to college than us. They're better educated than men, etc., etc. Brains, not brawn, right? Women are better in a brains economy. They're better. They're smarter than us. Women are doing incredible things. The art they're making, it is an incredible time, I think, artistically in fucking world history, because this is a generation of women that is like, I saw the fucking Barbie movie. And they're allowed to be painting amazing masterpieces, and they run the gallery, and they're wearing pantsuits, for Christ's sake. Meanwhile, the men are all fucking jacking off, playing Minecraft and waiting for GTA 6 to come out. They're all hoveled over in the corner, weeping, afraid. And so it's like, there is like this disbalance in the fucking marketplace where it's like, women, I'm not saying that it's like they have a lot of value in the culture. Oh, and it's added on top of, like, a lot of them get value simply because of the way that they look. Because they're hot, they're already getting validation, they're already getting fast tracked, because, the boomer guys, when they were hiring interns and shit, they hired a bunch of hot chicks to be their understudies and to learn their craft, because it was progressive. It was looked at progressive for them to hire these hot chicks, even though they're old guys who wanted to work around hot chicks who were 20 years old. They also got to be looked on as like, oh, they're doing the right thing because they're passing it on. Like in LA, my brother's ex-wife, she got a job, in the film industry. She wanted to do special effects makeup, monster makeup. Very hard competitive thing to get involved in. And this guy who did the fucking Predator hired her to be an intern or whatever at his studio. Everybody at his studio was like a 25-year-old fucking chick with like tattoos who weighed like 110 pounds. It's like, dude, don't get me wrong. She was extremely talented. This is what I'm saying. It's like, they're already super fucking talented, and so what are we supposed to do? Except get on the internet and complain about it. And get labeled incels. Which we're not. I mean, we're not. But, I don't know. A lot of this is media perception. The media says men are shit. Toxic masculinity. The men of this generation are trash. There's no high-value men. Women can't find anybody to date. You see this problem in New York a lot because women are killing it in their career. They're making tons of money. They're super put together. They have great clothes. They don't understand why we're not doing as well as them. It's like, well, because, they don't want to hire us. There's no incentive for them to hire us. There's no incentive for anybody to help me do anything. I'm a white guy. There's no incentive for people in colleges to put me in their program. There's no incentive for people to put me on shows. There's no incentive for people to hire me. Because if there's an equally qualified candidate who is not a white guy, it's incentivized, and that's okay, great. For most of human history, it's been the opposite. So, we're the first generation of people that have to swallow this bitter pill, I guess. And so I spend a lot of my time on the internet complaining about it. And it's embarrassing, I guess. And it makes me look like a whiny little bitch. But I do see this a lot where it's like women just feel like they're kind of vindicated to, like they can make fun of how tall we are. And that's okay. Because, like I saw this video about men dating younger women is always problematic and toxic. And he's always like a creep, psycho. Whereas a younger woman dating an older man, you can never blame her because she's like going through it, and it's just, she doesn't know any better or something, I guess. And it's like, there's double standards. There's a lot of fucking double standards, let's just say. And, never getting any fucking compliments is hard. Like seeing the way, and granted, all of my women writer friends are more talented than me, but seeing the way that people react to them when they get done after a reading and seeing how people react to me, it's like night and day. And granted, I have a very weird relationship with the audience. I feel weird about asking for validation from an audience. That's why I always sort of self-sabotage. Because I don't want people to come up after me and be like, wow, man, you're amazing. I just think that's weird. Whereas, like, for women, when they're done reading or whatever, how many guys are coming up to you after? Oh, my God, fucking awesome. And that's, I don't know. It is what it is. Maybe I'm just garbage. I'm mediocre garbage. The women who are younger than me are supportive and positive about my work. It's the older people in positions of power who know that their, doling out of approval is like their currency. They're the ones that are like, well, I'm going to give it to this person who's like, has a social capital for me. I'm going to give it to this sort of diversity hire. Which is fine. I'm not some, psycho on the internet. But what am I supposed to do? Once again, I return to my question from yesterday. That, there's just no way. There's no way. Women want you to be like, you got to have something that's like a challenge for them. You got to have something that's like aspirational for them. You got to be taller than them, or make more money than them, or be higher up in your field than them. Like I said, you got to make the fucking Predator. You have to have that shit if you want a woman to stay with you. Once that balance goes back the other way, there's no way that why should they stay with you? You're lower status, they're taking care of you. They don't, on the one hand, they've all been told not to settle, right? They think they can find that 2% or whatever of guys who's 6 feet tall, 7 fucking figure salary, and an 8-inch penis. That's what Jason King told me. He's somebody that's super successful in a, he worked in like tech and finance and shit. He lived in San Francisco. So these are like the super predator genetic, freaks of white people society, or, Western society. And like, this is what he said these women are looking for: 6 feet tall, 7-figure salary, 8-inch penis. And, that's what's surprising about it to me, is how much of it is like figures. When you see videos about women's qualifications, about like not settling, it's always numbers. It's always, he's got to be 6 feet tall, he's got to make 6 figures, he's got to be this, he's got to have a good job. It's never like, I fell in love with him. There was this 5'2" fucking, dishwasher, that I had some meet cute with on a fucking train or something, and we fell in love. It just doesn't, it's a resume. You know, they're looking for must have 10 years experience, master's degree, you know, whatever, you know. And it's just like that is dehumanizing. That is number crunching. That's not poetry. That's not love. That's not romance. But those people are all robots anyway, so we're not really trying to, you know, they can't fall in love. They only negotiate love moments, as to paraphrase Jack Lucas. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up. Thank you for watching. Merry Christmas. I thought this was an okay stream. I don't know. Best of 23. I wanted to get the poetry on the record. You know, there's a lot more that you know, I got to work on my next book. There's a lot more from that I'd like to read. I don't know. I feel like if I'm ever going to have success, it's going to be as like coming up through some kind of alternate, you know, side route that like, you know, one of my ultimate heroes really was Harvey Pekar, right? The guy from Cleveland. He published American Splendor Comics, right? And sort of became like a cult figure, but you know, it's because of the way he was able to publish, and he was able to get his voice out there without compromising it, right? By you know, a comic book is basically a chapbook. It's basically a mimeo. It's a penny sheet, right? It's citizen publishing. It's perfect bound, but it's, you know, it's soft cover. It's not cost intensive. It's like a penny sheet, right? Like fucking Tom Paine or something. And that's why I think it's effective, particularly in the metropolis. Like if you have a message that's a little offbeat, you can put whatever you want in your chapbook that costs 5 cents to make, that you made on your home printer, right? Like these comic book movies. That's what they were born from. You know, these comic books created an economy all to themselves that, like, they were able to create massive stories that would have cost a lot of money if they were movies. But because they were drawings in paper, they, you know, they could sell them for 50 cents or whatever. Now, 50 fucking years later, Hollywood uses them as the idea source, right? And so they made their ideas exist by putting them into this niche that was economically feasible. But also they could distribute it. You know, these comic books, especially in New York, it's like you can distribute them to a lot of people. You can get your books out. I can take them, give them to people at readings. A lot of people come in from out of town. I can give them to them. I can put them in bookstores, go to festivals, whatever, art book fair, go to Poetry Project, give them away. Spreading the message. Postal. Going postal. We should all go postal. You know, this fits in a manila envelope. Put a 40, you know, 50-cent stamp on there, and you can send it anywhere in the United States. Send it to your friends in Portland, Oklahoma, San Francisco, Austin, Florida, Vice City, Cleveland. And we have to. I mean, the culture just sucks so bad. You know, we've just been buried under corporate CGI basically since 9/11. And it's gotta be coming to the end. You know, now these Marvel movies are making less money, so maybe it's like almost just over, hopefully. I mean, once again, the government is not responding fast enough to the crisis, and it needs to change the laws so that normal people can just afford a cheap place to live again. I don't know if those prices will ever go back down. I mean, that's not really how it works, is it? But I hope San Francisco collapses. I would, if I could get an apartment in San Francisco for less than $800 a month, I would move there. I just think I'd like the weather better, more than anything. And I just feel like I've just like fucked up my relationships with everybody here so bad. And to be honest, the things that work here, I just don't feel like it just doesn't work for me. New York is like too serious. I've seen too many like preppy douchebags go through Columbia University straight to the top, and all these fucking cocksuckers in MFA programs who are in the city for like 2 years get, carte blanche. They get VIP treatment, and I've been treated like a dog for the last 15 years. And so I don't respect any of these people anymore. I think they're all privileged. New York has changed a lot since the 70s. And if you've lived in a fucking rent control apartment, or if you're a Nepo baby, who's been validated and fast tracked to success because of who the fuck your parents were, you've had a lot different experience than I have had, where I had to work for a living, toiling amongst the fucking rabble. I almost died working in restaurants, working in sushi. I got mercury poisoning like Jeremy Piven. You can't even get on Broadway. There is no off-Broadway. For most of the time I've been in New York, the theater world doesn't even exist hardly that I can tell. It all takes place in these little black box theaters, in acting studios. It's no one is going to these fucking plays. There is no off-Broadway. There's celebrities who want to do plays, and that's off-Broadway, the new group or something. It's oh, we're doing a new Wallace Shawn play with Ethan Hawke and Josh Hamilton. That's off-Broadway. It's okay, great. Where's the room for, we got Zachary Quinto in fucking The Glass Menagerie, or, this guy was, he played a small part in the fucking Star Trek movie 15 years ago. So yeah, he'll get to do any Broadway play for the rest of his career, just because people want to see a celebrity on stage. It's this brand thing. Again, people want known quantities. They want name awareness. They want to know who you are. They want to see somebody famous, right? That's all that fucking people care about. And we're all just in a race to fame. Everybody's trying to get famous. It's like Wonka. It's literally we're all trying to win the golden ticket. And we're all just trying to get famous so we can escape, wage slavery, basically. Being murdered by our jobs. But famous people are always the ones that get killed by their jobs. I don't know. I have to make an excuse somehow. It's not me. It has to be that the whole culture sucks. It can't be that I've failed to get my shit together. I mean, well, okay, I had that line in there about counting the spins on the basketball. And missing left, missing right, missing short, missing long. I was watching, because these basketball videos show up in my TikTok. And this one guy is shooting free throws, and he's swishing every single fucking free throw. And he's talking about how he was a kid, he would do 500 shots a day. But he would look, if he missed it left, he would think there's something about his release. There's something about his release that made it go left. There's something about his release that made it go long. And he analyzed the mechanics of it. It wasn't just I'm just going to shoot 500 shots and muscle memory remember it. He analyzed what he was doing and adjusted, and that's how he got this perfect technique where he can swish every time. Then I was watching this video with Dennis Rodman, and they were talking about when Dennis Rodman was on the Detroit Pistons. I think they were practicing foul shots or something, and Rodman was watching the guy shoot foul shots, and he's looking at it, and he's like, "What are you looking at? And he's counting. He's like, "What are you counting?" And he's like, "I'm counting the number of times that the ball rotates after it hits the rim, or before it hits the rim." And Dennis Rodman is the all-time best rebounder. He's one of the best rebounders of all time, and I don't even think he was good at basketball in high school. I think he taught himself how to fucking do this. And it's like, it's not just arbitrary. It's not like he's just like, oh, the ball fucking bounces off the thing and I go and get it and I just feel it. It's like, no, he was looking, it was almost like a savant or like, Rain Man or some shit, right? It's like he's seeing in slow motion or something. He's seeing how many fucking rotations the ball has, and that plays into how he knows he's just a little bit better than everybody else in the NBA. They're not looking at it that closely. They're looking at it closely, but they're not counting the fucking spins on the ball. They're not out there shooting 500 shots a day and going, okay. Now, I'm not good at that stuff. I'm terrible at that stuff. I just do feel. That's why I end up treading water. I usually have a lot of like impact right away, and then people go, okay, that's it. I don't know. I don't know how to take it to the next level. I don't know how to having that kind of, that's what I mean by the 0.0001%. It's like some people just have a special gift. And the culture is willing to monetize it and package it if it works for them a certain way. And so as artists, as entertainers, as wannabe celebrities, as wannabe successes, we're trying to figure out what's our avenue to that. I mean, I do feel like the last few decades have been full of mediocre celebrities who obviously wasn't based on talent. Even the people who are talented, I don't necessarily think are, like I was watching this fucking dance routine, Fit as a Fiddle from Singing in the Rain. Donald O'Connor and Gene Kelly. And they're both playing a fiddle and singing in harmony and dancing. There's a sequence where one of them plays, it's like the amount of talent and rehearsal that went into that fucking they're playing the fiddle under their thing and over here, and they're singing in harmony while they're doing it. I'm just like, no one has time, or there's nothing in our economy that incentivizes this. Like there's no show business, there's no vaudeville where people are just like learning this kind of shit, where they learn, everybody can sing in harmony and play the fiddle and the piano and tap dance, and they just have a freakish, these old entertainers, people from vaudeville, people like Buster Keaton or fucking Bob Hope or whatever, Charlie Chaplin, it's like Judy Garland, it's like they just have this bag of tricks that I don't even think it'd be possible for an entertainer to have now. There's no field where they could build that and learn that, and it's almost like human tactility or something has lost. It's weird to me that on the one hand we're like, it is kind of an unprecedented time that like humans are faster maybe than ever. Like how do they keep breaking records? Like 40-yard. It's like human beings are faster, stronger. They're more ripped than ever. They can lift. But it's like that's all just like a measuring stick. It's not necessarily. There's something about this talent that it's like it's so intricate and it's so nuanced. It is like weaving or sewing, or in Iran where they fucking hammer those intricate patterns into the sheet metal, and it's like, but they do it in flow state, because they've done it. It's their whole lives. It's their craft, and so they have this highly evolved, highly advanced tactile skill. And as we've moved more into the screen-based world and swiping, and it feels like there's less of that kind of laser vision, laser focus, tactile embroidery or something. And I don't know, the records don't sound as good, the fucking songs aren't written as well. Everything has like white people, cheesy, inflected like hip hop beats. Like even country music is all like it's like I don't know. I think there is like a corporate monopoly that is like stopping up the culture and preventing new things from surfacing. Uh, and also, we live in such a monoculture and we're blanketed by sort of a homogenous monoculture that it feels probably like it's harder for subcultures to exist, or it's like it's less likely that things are going to remain secret or remain, if somebody had some kind of super talent like Bieber or whatever, right, just got discovered when he's 10 years old or whatever and exploited immediately. And so the internet is always looking for the next big thing, and it's like if it were out there, it's just everything's diluted, it's like because there's more of it, everything is diluted. There's more people alive, but it's all just diluted and like watered down. And it's like, I don't know that there's, subcultures out there that are able to just take root. The economics in our society are so hostile to anything that doesn't have a proven record of success or capital to sort of sustain itself. Like look at the Slooge. That's a perfect example. As an arts organization, that could have lasted. If we had started that in 1965, right? It could have, like the Poetry Project, it could have lasted for decades because the overhead was very low back then. As far as rent, finding a space, finding time to gather and create together. Whereas in New York in the 2010s, that lasted about a year before, real estate intervened. Rents went up. Now, granted, I mean, we were doing it like in a house venue, but that's not unheard of, right? In the 80s, would anybody have cared that we were doing fucking shows in our basement? Like, I doubt it. But it's a different era. Everybody's uptight. There's no more parties in the USA. Something has changed that I can't quite name. It's Reaganomics. It's needless. That's why I get on the internet and harp about it 2 hours a day. I'm like the anti-Rush Limbaugh. This is what right-wing radio people do. They're just on every day doing this, harping on their talking points. And it's like we are not given the opportunity to thrive as a culture and to create a sustaining culture because of the economics of where we live and the spaces we have access to. There's no derelict spaces that we can just use because everything is security, police, fence. There's no squatting. There's no vacant anything. It's all, you got to pay. This is worth $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month. You got to pay $1,200 a month just to afford your fucking room that you share with, an apartment with 3 other people or whatever. 3 other wealthy Nepo babies. Children of Italian royalty, Saudi royalty, whatever it may be. Children of oligarchs, children of drug dealers. And then there's little old me, broke as a joke. It's getting harder and harder to live with no money. I was able to sustain my kind of like off the grid, low rent, low wage life when I had low rent, right? But the game has changed. They don't want people like me to exist. They don't want you to have free choices or time to think or time to even, like I said, it took me years to even get to this. It took a decade of systematically disordering my senses and figuring it out on my own as an autodidact in bookstores, learning off the dollar racks, which don't exist now either. You know, I got everything I have practically off of a dollar rack. And now they don't exist. Now it's a $3 rack. That changes shit for people like me. And I don't know. I've got to figure something else out, I guess, or I don't know. I got to break through. That's why I'm like in this, over the past year or two, I've felt more of a push to, the comedy thing or trying to make the open mic like this big show business thing. That was like a push to try to get successful and famous so I could have money to like, live. Whereas before, if I could, when I had a room that was $300 a month, I was pretty satisfied to just do my thing. But now you're just in a panic. You're like, I gotta make something happen. I need to bring some money in and get my name on the lease. I want my name on the fucking deed. I want to be able to do whatever, to paint the walls, or I want to buy, I want to buy this brownstone in the West Village at $6 million. I want to move all my books in and live there for the rest of my goddamn life. That's what I'm trying to manifest, okay? I've got a Kickstarter. Send me money. Donate to my Kickstarter. I'm trying to create this. I mean, this brownstone could be a world headquarters of art and culture. Bradley Cooper, I know you've got money for this. Buy it. Let me live in it. We will make it a venue for poetry, music, painting, theater. It'll be the center of the whole artistic fucking culture in this country. It'll be the new Beckett's. But we side with the soul of the planet, which is the working class and the poor. We're not a trustafarian like all these other fucking New Yorkers. We're not a trust fund baby, okay? Kill the trust fund babies. Kill the Nepo babies. Abort the Nepo babies. That's my new bumper sticker. Abort the Nepo babies. All right, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. We did almost 3 hours. I'm on less than 10%. Abort the Nepo babies. Kill the finance class. Switch the budget for the Defense Department and the National Endowments for the Arts. Just switch it. Give all the money, funnel all the money from the Pentagon into the National Endowment for the Arts. That's my prescription for success. And, high-speed rail. They could take the budget for the military and build a fucking high-speed rail system in this country. They could take $400 billion. I mean, how much would it be for a high-speed rail? The military budget is like $800 billion. That is obscene. Beyond words. I think we all know that. So take some of that fucking money, and we need a high-speed rail from here to Columbus so I can go home for Christmas next year, you fucks. They're just trying to separate me from my family on Christmas. All right, well, anyway, thank you for watching. God bless us. God bless America. This horrible country. That's Columbus. That's where I, did not go back for Christmas. But, see that place. That used to be like a slumlord. You'd probably find a room there, $400 a month. You'd probably get a studio apartment, $600 a month. In retrospect, it seems like slumlords were not so bad. At least you could afford like a cheap apartment. They weren't like bilking you. I don't know. Compared to what we have now, which are like the algorithmly defines your rent and like charges you $500 more than they used to. It's like, just because it's the maximum amount of money you can charge people without them being bankrupt doesn't mean that like that's what the market will bear. Like, just charge people, like, a human amount of money so they don't have to work themselves to death and leave us the fuck alone so we can do house shows and, like, live our lives. Quality of living. Fuck national security. Fuck safety. Everything in our fucking lives is, like, done in the name of safety. Oh, we have to spend $800 billion on the military for national security from what? The threat is coming from within. We all know that. It's just money laundering. It's weapons manufacturers stealing from us. It's wealth redistribution is what it is. Merchants of death stealing our money. It's socialism for the worst people on earth, people who build weapons. And they should take all that money and spend it on fucking quality of living. You know? Just put libraries everywhere, put poetry readings everywhere. Give people studio apartments for Christ's sake. Give people, help people get laid. Help people fall in love. Help people experience life to its utmost. When is there going to be a government program for that? It's not. We are just the capital. We're just the labor. The company is really the one with the human rights. We're just like something they allow to exist. That's why they charge us. Because we're technically just part of their inventory or something. They don't care about our quality of living, or if we ever go to Europe, if we ever see the grand tour and the museums in Europe, they don't care. They don't care if we go to China and read our poetry in China. They don't want us to do that. They want us to stay fucking shipwrecked on our couch, watching fucking Jimmy Fallon and eating Lay's potato chips, working for Nationwide. And I'm not going to do it. I will not do it, okay? Never. You will never get me. I will run this thing into the ground, okay? We are driving this motherfucker till the wheels fall off. I think the economy is going to change. I thought Bidenomics might have helped us. They didn't really, but I think the culture might break. If San Francisco collapses, we're going there, okay? If I can get a studio apartment in San Francisco for $800 a month, I'll be there next week. San Francisco is New York without as much of the hassle and with way more, like, palatial amenities. I just think culturally people might like me better there. I'm already kind of a left-wing hippie. I'm already an old stingy hippie. Aging. It's where aging beatniks go. It's what Jack Michelin did. It's what Hirschman did. You start out in New York. You do 10 years as a street poet in New York on McDougal Street. And then you go to San Francisco and you live the rest of your life in paradise. So I'm really praying that the city will collapse. I'm trying to do 3 hours. I have 3 minutes, but I don't know if my battery's going to die. Let me try and plug in. All right, well, this is the recap show, the post-game show. Thanks for watching. Trying to get the word out and, I don't know, create a movement, create an online... But I don't know. People just want inertia. They want comfort. They want GTA 6. They want to go on crime sprees on video games and kill people on Call of Duty Modern Warfare. They don't want poetry. People don't want to read poetry. They want to be, they want people in this country to be ready and have no choice but to join the army or go to jail and be for-profit prisoners. You either go to college and become for-profit students, putting yourself into debt. You join the army as a way to finance your college because you have no other choice. And you didn't get into college maybe or something. Because you went to a bad high school that was already like a war, Or you go to jail. And they make money off of you by having for-profit private prisons. And they use you as slave labor, basically, if you're in jail. They pay you 13 cents an hour to make Victoria's Secret bras. Somehow that's legal. Because we look, this is, once again, these are things, the way that society engineers our point of view, it makes us hate homeless people. Homeless people, people all have the same reaction to them when they ask them for, oh, no, I don't have any money. It's just like, give them money. Why not? Why not give homeless people money? You've got fucking $1. Give them $1. If you're a fucking finance bro in New York, give homeless people money. But it's like our society trains us that just like These people need to get jobs. Don't even look at them. Don't talk to them. Don't engage with them. They're just going to ask. They're going to buy drugs with it. They're going to want more. Don't even look at them. It's like, these are not bad people. Anyway, there's a lot of brainwashing. We all know it. We all fucking know it. We're trying to undo it. That's what this is about. This is like a guided deprogramming. Yeah, and so I don't know. Where's the poetry? It's getting harder and harder. You know, it exists on razor thin margins, and the ice is melting beneath us. We're polar bears. Everything's going extinct. You know, the insects. It's all the animals. It's like the poetry is our song, and they're taking our voice away. And you know what was it? Because of this, the war, Europe has like really curtailed its gas usage, right? It's rationing its gas or the pipeline, all this shit. Germany, and supposedly it's the snowiest winter they've had over there in like decades, right? It's sort of like during the pandemic, right? Nature was healing when everything shut down. I think the sooner people, that's why I think the pandemic was almost like this weird, like prophetic. It was almost like an enforced activism. They basically enforced a general strike. They enforced shutting down all of the pollution essentially, and they gave everybody a universal basic income. I think the pandemic was like a weird beta test or something of maybe some kind of future lifestyle. If they didn't keep people at home, if the economy could still function, I think all of that stuff is good. I think the sooner people go on a general strike and just shut down all the productivity, all the needless consumer crap, manufacturing, it's all crap. It's like get rid of the idea of planned obsolescence. Let's build things to last. Let's change our society so we prioritize that. And like, let's just get back to my love language is just spending time, just spending time reading, thinking about think pieces that you watch online, listening to podcasts, watching TikTok videos, hyper learning, starting your own live stream, starting your own podcast. The pandemic really gave everybody 30 grand and like everybody was doing podcasts. Everybody's getting on TikTok. Everybody's buying microphones, like recording albums, putting out music, getting their music on Spotify. Suddenly, everybody had time. They weren't at work. They had money to be artists, to actually like work on their craft, get their work out there, record it properly, get it on Spotify, get good artwork for it, promote properly, take good band pictures, whatever. They don't want you to take good band pictures. They want you to work till you are too tired to fight back, basically. And so it's dangerous not taking the deal. You don't get health insurance. You live on razor thin margins, but you have freedom. It's about freedom. That's the thing that I need to emphasize to myself as what I do have. And, I should appreciate, be grateful for actually having shitloads of freedom. And I can write, things that are super, questionable. And it's not going to cost me my job or my book contract or anything like that. So, more fucking freedom, everybody. That's what it's all about. More fucking freedom. All right, thank you for watching. Happy New Year. We'll be back on soon. Spreading truth. And just all over the place. Good night.